So, here we are. We all finished the game.
Oh, you already have everything set up for recording.
I just opened OBS and clicked start recording. What?
Wow, that's so fast.
What did you expect?
I don't know. For me, when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start OBS, it's gonna take like 5 minutes till everything's
No.
loaded. Okay.
Not every PC is clinically dead like yours.
Anyway, so I finished the game first. This we're gonna talk about spoilers. This is gonna have spoilers. Mike finished second, and now Bug just finished it.
Can I quickly throw away my banana peel?
No. Okay, so I have some notes.
Okay.
Not many, just things that while I was playing, I was like, okay, this and this and this.
No, well, you go. I want to know. Wait. No, continue. I'm just.
I've written down, for example, that I had some bugs while playing. I don't know if you guys had that, like the music would stop and start sometimes, so it was weird.
I had no bugs actually the entire playthrough. At least none that I noticed.
Well, I had
I also
some.
didn't have glitches. Textures were all where they should be.
I
Well,
had that. I had crashes where it said my driver was not working or something.
I'm gonna make a whole video about my bugs.
It couldn't be me. It was flawless.
To be fair, Bug, you should say that these bugs are because you were not on an SSD.
I would go there once when I finish my sentence and stuff, but you are talking, so.
And what else? Sometimes when I was in a dialogue, I would press a dialogue option and it would just hang there. And I would have to wait for the game to load or something. It was weird.
I need to find the recording where the statue just falls.
Yeah.
It was nice, yeah.
I just feel like some stuff in my game, even after this, some things are just a little bit weird. But also, like, yes, it was while it was on a normal hard drive, not an SSD. But some of the bugs are still absolutely, like, crazy. Usually, I'm used to when my game runs like as that the bugs would be like, you know, people T-posing, stuff not loading, falling through a map, that's all normal. But that my character constantly reverts to the base model.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
That's a weird one.
Yeah. But clearly they shouldn't have said that you could have this game on a hard drive. They should have said that to get the game to run at a normal level, you need a fucking SSD.
I mean, I don't know what they said. I never look at.
In the minimum specs, it doesn't. It says HDD.
I mean, it runs on it, just not well. So yeah, bugs and stuff.
Yeah. Also, while I find it combat to be the best in the series by far, sometimes there seemed to be a delay when I would like press the parry button and when my character would actually move. And if you had pressed the parry button like a little bit before, it wouldn't happen again, and you would get hit if you're in the middle of an animation and a character, an NPC. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. A character does like a hit that you cannot parry, you have no way of dodging, and things like that.
Yeah, I also feel like towards the ending, combat got worse for me. Like, when I say at the beginning, I mean like at the beginning in terms of when the game actually ran, you know?
Yeah.
When it was smooth-ish. Combat is really good, I feel. But I don't know if it was delay or just stuff overlapping, but sometimes he just would not do what I want to do. For example, I want to do a heavy attack and then he would just be stuck in endless charging and shit like that.
Yeah.
It was a little bit weird. Also, like, as a mage, I don't know, probably have similar stuff, but as a mage, you can get an ability that you can magically, like, blink away when you press space just before you get hit. And I feel like that just sometimes didn't work. Like the blinking ability is really weird. Like when it works, it is amazing, but sometimes it's not doing what I wanted to do. Really.
Yeah. Okay,
It could be an issue that there are just so many abilities and everything that use the same buttons that the game gets confused at some point. Like there could be many reasons.
Yeah, so in general, to talk a bit about the combat, on my first playthrough I played as a rogue, which was very fun. I had some issues with the dodging. I played on normal difficulty, and that was basically I would sometimes my character would not dodge when I clicked, would not parry when I clicked, but other than that it was pretty fun. Now I'm playing as a mage, and yeah, compared to the previous Dragon Age games, I would say that the combat is pretty much one of the best things in this game.
If you like fighting.
If you like fighting. If you don't like fighting, then whatever.
And then why are you playing this game?
Yeah, that's my problem with most games. I don't like quests and I don't like fighting. I'm playing Veilguard.
Yeah. Also to add for the video, I am a huge Dragon Age fan since my first game was Dragon Age 2, then I played Dragon Age Origins, Inquisition, then waited 10 years for Veilguard. Mike and Bug here, this is their first Dragon Age game that they have finished. Mike played a little bit of the first, right?
I played some of Origins. I played most of the Origin stories, except the Dalish Elf.
Yeah.
And the Castless Dwarf. And I have played Noble Dwarf through a good bit of the first act.
Yeah.
I feel like we are perfect because we have the three perspectives.
Yeah.
Knows everything, knows nothing, and knows kind of.
Yeah.
And like, I think I also really want to mention for context that like I said, I hate quests. I hate fighting. I hate making decisions. Just to keep that in mind when I talk about this.
Yeah.
Like I put my 2 cents.
Yeah, it is known.
For context, I hate this game. No. Kidding, joking.
I don't think you hated the game, right? I think you...
I love the game. It's a great game.
Really? Okay, I'm happy.
Yeah. That's why at the beginning I was so upset because I got hooked right from the beginning. And since it ran like S at the beginning, I was like, I want to fucking enjoy this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me very quickly. But more to that when we get there.
But since you mentioned quests, I have to say that, especially compared to Inquisition, the narrative is very tight, and you have very few side quests that you can get done relatively quickly. Whereas in Inquisition, you have so many quests and stuff to do. It's nothing like Veilguard, so it's definitely better.
Yeah, I also feel like I didn't do all the usual side quests till the very end, which was bullshit, but all things considered, I got through them pretty quick.
Yeah, I think we all got the best possible ending because we did all the side quests.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one side quest magically disappeared for me.
Yeah, but you still got the best ending.
Yeah. We're so good.
Yeah. Okay, so we can go through everything. Combat, visuals, music, storyline, dialogue, and romances. So before we go at them one by one, do you want to start by saying your something else or your basic thoughts about the game or anything like that?
Maybe we could start by what everyone played.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Introduce yourselves.
Yeah. So my first playthrough, I played as a male elf rogue who romanced Davren.
And you were part of the Shadow Dragons.
Yes.
Yeah. For my first playthrough, I played the Melkunari Warden, and I romanced Lucanis.
I am a human male Mournwatch mage, and I romanced Emric. And I picked being trans for extra dialogue options.
Okay, so that was our first playthrough. And what did you think after finishing your first playthrough? What did you think as a general? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Medium? Mike?
I had a lot of fun playing the game. It's not one of my most favorite games of all time, but I had a lot of fun and it was hard to put down. So that's a win for me for an RPG.
I'm also
I have
really
more nuanced takes later, but
yeah,
you know,
we'll
just
go in depth. Yeah, I'm also really happy to hear that people that haven't played the previous Dragon Age games really can get into the game, because I was worried that you guys would not be able to understand anything. But it seems that on that front they did a pretty good job of making it accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, I liked my first playthrough. I have some criticisms, especially when we compare to the previous games. Those are when the main criticisms come from. But yeah, I had a good time, and I'm playing I'm on my second playthrough right now. I'm having a good time. Like, it's
Thinking
fine.
about your third playthrough already?
Yeah, thinking about my third playthrough for reasons we'll talk about.
As I said, I like the game. I would agree with Askatosch that it's a good game. It's not one of like, I don't feel like it's peak. It definitely has a lot of stuff that it could have done better, and yada yada. But all in all, it's a neat game. It's good. I had a good time. I was very emotional in places I didn't think I'd get emotional. Yeah, I too just wanted to finish the game, and did not do anything other than playing this game the past week.
Good.
So I think that's a good sign, yes.
Yeah.
And as someone who has never played any Dragon Age or knows anything about Dragon Age except for Sarah, I do agree it's very accessible. Like even with like being able to pick what your past decisions were for the Inquisitor, I just picked whatever felt with no context that I had, just what I would probably have picked, and everything my Inquisitor said in the game, I was like, yeah, sounds right.
That's
So I'm happy with
interesting.
it. Yeah.
That's interesting because I have a very different experience
Yeah, well,
due
you
to
played
being a previous
Inquisitor.
player. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have that, so I can be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I vibe with this. This is
Yeah.
right.
All right, so we can start by going one by one. Combat, we talked about it a little bit already. Do you want to add anything about it?
I had a lot of fun as a warrior, but from what I know from Origins, being a mage is a huge deal. For that, a lot of the warrior abilities look very flashy and definitely mage infused.
Yeah.
And I commented to you about while I was playing that the world, because of that, feels like it fell into the trap that a lot of fantasy genres fall into, that start of a more grounded fantasy medieval setting, and then they get more flashy and flashy by the time, and it all becomes a big giant fantasy slog. Where magic isn't that special anymore because it's just everywhere.
Yeah, to answer that, it is really a shame that this happens, because in Dragon Age, being a mage in past games was a really, it was a big thing. Not as the player character, but stop doing that. But due to how how mages were part of the story, and how magic was feared, and the Templars, and the war that started in Inquisition, and all of that. So yeah, combat-wise, it really doesn't. You basically can play a rogue and have flashing abilities like a mage.
Yeah, or a warrior.
Yeah.
I was constantly throwing necromantic skulls at my enemies that auto-killed them.
I bet they won't see that coming.
Yeah.
But combat is very, very, very fun.
It is.
Yeah. I said that
But
earlier when
I kind of am also a fan of a lot of it's hard in a fantasy game to make the non-magic classes feel as special as the magic classes, because then everyone just wants to play a mage. Just look at Dungeons and Dragons. They're having this discussion constantly about why nobody wants to play martial classes. But I think it is very possible to make a hard-hitting warrior that has cool abilities that make you, I don't know, fling people into the air without it becoming basically you are a mage, but instead of using a staff, you just fling around the magic with your axe.
Yeah.
My turn?
If you want to add anything.
Yeah, I feel like I have always been more of a fan of melee combat. So being a mage and using spells and everything shit like that is new to me, and I didn't think I'd like it, but it's really smooth and fun in this game. I appreciate that as a mage I can also use a dagger for some actual melee.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool when it works properly. On the topic of that magic special and not viewed with mages, blah blah, I feel like I only know that from you guys talking about it, that mages and and elves were not like blah blah, whatever. Not the topic right now, but yeah, I only got this on the very corner in this game that some people were talking about that. Oh, you're a mage. How are you here and stuff like that. It got mentioned very faintly in the game.
Yeah, it's very pushed. It's not important in this game at all.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, because there's a bigger issue later on. So it's
people always have time for bigotry.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to the lore discussion, certain elements in the game would hit way harder if they included, for example, the racism against elves, or the prejudice against mages, because the big bads are two elven gods. Depending on who you ask, they are not elven gods; they are just really powerful mages. And
yeah,
you know, with them being the big bad, that would mean something for the elves.
Yeah, it's always getting touched, like that mages and elves are not viewed positively. It's getting touched on, but it's very gentle.
Yeah, and it's really ironic that it's this game where they are so gentle against elves, when it's the perfect opportunity to show, like, for example, humans who are, I think, the largest population, to show racism against the elves, and rushing to blame the elves, and especially the Daily elves, who were already like pushed aside by society and blah 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 blah. So yeah, there was a prime opportunity there, and they didn't take it.
Yeah, especially
it feels like they are specifically ignored it.
Yeah,
because they didn't want to bring up. Oh, by the way, now you really have now it's not just the bigots who have the reason to fear the elves. Now there's a real reason to be like, oh, elves are evil.
Yeah,
because I think, if I remember correctly, Belara and Devrin addressed this multiple times as like, holy fucking shit, it's elves, and like like they were very conflicted about this because they were worried about how their people are gonna be seen. But then it was, I feel like 99% of the worry and the topic being addressed was only by those two sometimes in private.
Yeah, they just only mention it once basically, and then ignore it. It has no consequences on anything. The Dalish also have no problem to accept. At the very start, you meet the Veil Jumpers, and you start by the way, your gods are evil, and they're like, oh yeah, sadly we knew all along, which I don't think that's accurate.
I don't know, but not enough lore to.
Yeah, based on previous games, the elves did not know that the gods that they actually put the Valasli in the Elvis tattoos on them are actually evil, because they were doing it to remember their history and stuff, and they thought they were good gods.
Huh.
And history, yeah.
Yeah, for me it felt like everyone always knew that they were bad. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. In Inquisition, it starts. We find out more and more, and maybe in some lore entries, you might see hints of the gods were not that good. But no, it was in Inquisition with Solas, who we basically learned that the Dread Wolf, who was the god of trickery, was actually a good, in quotation marks, guy who was against
According to himself.
yeah, who was
I
against the
still
other
like him.
gods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing as an elf, I did have some extra options, but it was definitely not as heavy as it could have been when it comes to that.
It's like maybe one day I will play another Dragon Age. Maybe I will. I don't know. But then I get more perspective on it to compare.
Yeah.
Because I 100% agree that all the fantasy typical racism and all that stuff did not translate in this game at all.
Yeah.
Like even I played a little bit of D&D and everything as weird species and blah, and even there I felt more about it. But fantasy, man.
Yeah.
It's not just fantasy racism, but Dragon Age. You cannot escape this fandom because of their inane fucking infighting about racism, and I haven't. Long before I ever touched Dragon Age Origins, I already knew about the fucking infighting, and people were vicious and excusing each other of racism and whatever and the fuck. It was point and center. When I got the game gifted and I said, I wanted to play the previews first, I got told, you didn't miss much, you just missed a lot of racism from someone who's not in the fandom, by the way. So the topic of racism and slavery, they are big in Dragon Age, and that the story doesn't care for that almost at all. Melara and Devrin make some comments, but that's about it.
I would say an impression I got in this game is that everything is a bit soft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything is softened, the blows are softened.
Yeah, you could be very nice in this game. It's basically impossible to be rude.
Yeah, you cannot be evil in this game.
You can be nice with a thumbs up, you can be nice with a funny joke, and you can be nice with a stern, cavalry advice on the side.
Yeah. But I was talking about the story in general, and like with the lack of racism against elves, or like they only talk about, they're gonna think badly of us, and then you don't see anything about it.
Just as a topic, it was just kind of forgotten, lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
I think it's saying lost in the sauce is too generous here. I think it was buried in the back garden and some flowers were planted, and everyone hoped they forgot about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I believe it's on purpose that they left this out a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. There was some criticisms in the previous games that they just put the elves, they throw everything on the elves or something. Like, they make it so it's the elves' fault and this and that. So I don't know if they took it at their advisement, and that's why they wanted to continue with the story they had said, that the elven gods were, the big bad, but also wanted to not make it so these people that were saying, you just make it the elves bad guys, completely right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, but though you could have worked with that very well, because the big lore reveal is that elves used to be spirits.
Yeah.
And we also have in Nan's discussions, thanks to Emmerich, about what spirits are, and they are the remnants of emotions of living things. So, in other words, as I understand this, humans were already a thing and Titans were a thing. So the remnants, the spirits, have to be the remnants of humans and or Titans.
Oh!
Yes, and then they made their bodies with the Titan's blood. So basically the elves are kinda a mixture maybe of humans and Titans.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
and in
definitely
any
like-
case, the modern elves are not what the Elvenuris are. Not by
Yeah.
a long shot. So I think you could have made a great story about the elves think the gods are their saviors, and if they come back, everything will be better, and they will no longer be oppressed and slaves. And then the elven gods come back, but it's not like that. But some will still hold on to that belief that they had their entire life and that their entire family and generations had their entire life. But then, they fight back and they are not defined by the gods of the past. Could have made a story like that.
Yeah, that would have been
That
very
of-
interesting.
I think it's also an
Especially,
easy story.
I don't know. Especially since in Trespasser, which is the expansion for Inquisition, the last expansion, which is basically required reading if you want to get the full story, Solas starts getting agents that work for him because they also, follow and believe him and his, status as the Dread Wolf. So it was already set up that elves have a predisposition to follow the elven gods.
And then you could have had maybe a conflict between some Dalish clans and some city elves that are less connected.
Yeah.
And maybe some Dalish clans that are like, okay, I still believe that the original elven gods are good, but not this Solas guy. He is the trickery god who betrayed everyone else, so I don't believe a single thing he says.
Yeah.
I think all in all, the main issue with the story is just like there's a lot of missed opportunities and some dialogues and just writing in general that could have been better.
Yeah, I think we should definitely go more in depth into that. But let's get the simple stuff out of the way first, because we started talking about combat and ended up in lore.
Yeah.
So
He does not have a lot to say about combat, to be honest.
yeah. But
combat is okay.
Yeah, combat is
nice.
good. The visuals and the cutscenes.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
The hair.
The hair.
hair.
Oh my god, best hair. The best hair.
We thought Baldur's Gate 3 hair is nice. We didn't know what is possible.
Yeah.
I didn't think we would
Insane.
see this kind of hair physics so soon.
I didn't think my computer could run those hair physics when I saw them in trailers and stuff. But they made it work.
From the perspective of someone who has done some 3D work, I still feel like for the long hair, there are some weight issues in the modeling of the hair.
And some
the simulation.
clipping.
Yeah, clipping is... I mean, you can do clipping with meshes, but I just feel like the weight distribution of the hair strands should be a little bit different. But I mean, who am I to complain about this? Like, I have my hair tied back. I don't know if it's a shader thing or probably shader thing, that because the hair colors just are a mess sometimes.
Yeah.
You walk through a tunnel and suddenly the people who have black hair have blonde hair, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I have red hair in a green tunnel.
I don't have those issues.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. It's probably just a shader issue. That is
You're
with,
the problem.
Like, the settings and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also had it when I had RTX on and everything, so I don't know. It's just...
I don't know. I didn't have max settings. But I have to say that visually and in the cutscenes and stuff, everything felt very dynamic and nice. I never felt like it was, for example, like Inquisition, where you just the camera zooms in a tiny bit and you just stand there and talk to the NPC. It was always when there needed to be a cutscene, there was a cutscene. And there were a lot of unique animations, I felt, or at least I didn't notice any repetition. So
there's a lot of repetition, but I smoothed it over, definitely.
Yeah, so I think they did a really good job. And also with the locations, the fact that due to the Illuvians we got to go to so many different places, it really allowed them to so many beautiful and unique looking places. It was really nice.
Aleph Forest. I
Yeah.
never want to go to Aleph Forest again.
Yeah,
Holy
it
fucking
ran
shit.
it ran like shit, but it looked really nice.
It looked nice, but I wish that Devin would just get his shit together. I have to say that I'm biased, but I fucking love the Necropolis.
Yeah, every location had its like its own unique
Yeah.
flair.
I think my favorite were actually Treviso and Navarran.
Yeah, Treviso was
Necropolis.
amazing.
I agree that all places were beautiful, but for my own aesthetic, definitely those two. Fair.
Yeah, and they all had their unique personality. Like Treviso, clearly inspired by like Venice. And, yeah.
Yeah, Venice is the English word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
they're
And I think this is a good time to just briefly mention it's definitely Venice. People have names like De La Morte,
Yeah.
and they speak Spanish. So what's up with that?
That's
Just
fantasy.
mentioning it here.
yeah.
I also want to say, because on the visual topic, what I really like is at the lighthouse that as you progress with the companion quests and stuff, that their homes evolve. Because I also really appreciate that they all have their own place and it's like reflecting on the journey, and it's so beautifully made.
Yeah.
Harding's room is so fucking beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's stunning.
Stunning.
I liked how everyone's room got more lived in and more dressed
Yeah.
up over time. Except ours. We
Yeah,
don't even get a bed.
I was at the beginning, I was like, holy fucking shit, I have a giant aquarium. Oh my god, I feel so bad for the others. And at the ending, I was like,
Yeah.
I feel bad for me.
yeah. I'm just gonna sleep in Emmerich's room. It's fine.
Yeah.
He
But-
also doesn't have a bed.
We can sleep on the stone slab, or we sleep in my room on
Yeah,
the.
there is the sacrificial altar.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you can sleep in Manfred's arms.
we
Yeah.
can-
Best place.
well, I can't. We can also sleep on the balcony, but
Yeah.
now he has a fucking stethoscope. Stethoscope. there.
It's a gigantic stethoscope.
Yeah.
But yeah, visually also very, very good, I would say.
Yeah, definitely beautiful game.
Yeah.
Even when I was running on the lowest settings, it was still beautiful.
Yeah. I'm running on medium settings to multitask on my second playthrough, and I haven't noticed a difference basically from my
Yeah,
first.
In between, I put everything sometimes on super high and ray tracing on everything, and the difference actually is very small. I mean, there is definitely a difference, but it's like, I think it's again a thing of the game is so stylized in a way that it just
Yeah.
This will also definitely 100% age super well. Like it's just stylized enough that in a few years it will still look amazing.
Yeah. I agree.
Except for this is also like visually the outfits. I am
The outfits were horrid.
I got and you know it's an acquired taste.
No.
I warmed up to some outfits, but I mean obviously not all outfits are for everybody type.
Yeah.
We can go into outfits also later. And
No,
body
I
type
mean, it's the style. Like they should have allowed us to recolor the outfits. The colors, I don't know why the coloring in the outfits is so horrible, but for me, 90% of the outfits did not work, mostly because the colors were bad.
Maybe we should at this point mention what kind of body types we're all playing, because they were quite diverse. I was playing a Kunari warrior, so I was of course muscled up to the max. Big burly guy.
Yeah.
What
No.
was your height?
I was not maximum height, but I was almost maximum height. And as a Kunari, you are already taller
Yeah.
than the rest. So I was. Speaking of that, I am taller than Tosh, except for one cutscene where they downsized me.
And I got enlarged at one side.
Yeah.
And then I turned into my demon halfway.
Yeah, and I played as a male elf that I tried to go for the, thinner side, but also, fit. And I edited a little bit. Once I saw that the shoulders looked gigantic, I edited them and shortened them.
I was thick as fuck, but not as thick as I could be.
You had a tummy.
Yes, Kat, because you were whining for me to keep that body type as well.
Because
Well,
it was... Whatever.
Yeah, okay. I have to mention though, this game in the character creator, how many hours did I spend in the character creator?
7.
7 hours I spent in the character creator. 7 hours of my life. I don't like the character creator that much. There are a lot of options, but almost no options that I liked. They have vivisection scars, which I use because I fucking love them. So big plus for that. I think there was an issue for you guys, especially with the Kunari, when it comes to hairstyles as well.
Yeah, and forehead.
Yeah,
I didn't really have an issue. I'm just disappointed that the Kunari have way less hairstyles than the rest. But I had no problem finding one that I liked.
Yeah, I could not find a hairstyle that I liked. I just took whatever the fuck at the end. But something that I... Also, you cannot make old characters, but... Something that I really appreciate is that actually for the different body types, you have different textures. Because a lot of games give you the sliders to make you buff or muscles and blah blah blah. And they maybe sometimes have 2 different body textures for when you have muscles and when not. But this game actually has a different texture for when you have muscles, one for when you are fat, and one for when you're very slim. And the texture, just having 3 textures makes such a huge difference. And also it does not look like you're just stretching the character, but actually they properly modeled the different body types as well, in a way. Like, that is... I salute to that. Like, that is amazing. Which is why I was also excited to just pick a different body type, because textures!
I like the character creator, but there were some surprising limits to what you could do. Like, you think you can morph the face and stuff, and that's pretty neat, but then when you actually go down to every specific slider, you don't have as much... you cannot be very creative. Like for the eyes, you can basically have to stick with the eye that your preset had. Same with the lips, and only make it bigger and smaller. Like, there were certain things that were pretty limiting. And if we compare to a character creator like Dragon's Dogma 2...
Baldur's Gate.
No.
Oh, okay.
Baldur's Gate had less options because
Baldur's Gate had like 2
had
faces.
What?
and all the male full-blooded elven faces were very sad. I could never play as an elf
Okay, we
because
take
I
Dragon's
just-
Dogma 2.
Yeah, why would you
Fine.
pick Baldur's Gate 3
That's
as
fine,
an
I like-
example?
I like Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, it's good. And you can make a good-looking character, but you didn't have a lot of options.
I cannot remember. Okay, Dragon's Dogma, it's okay. I made the unspeakable.
Wow.
Like, it's superior.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma
Why is
2.
so attack bug?
I said I'm so sorry.
I'm so
Yeah, nobody's
sorry.
nobody wants your apology though.
Do a barb.
Okay.
Oh,
It was my chair. I'm doing it.
okay.
Oh, fuck.
It's gonna die.
I can't get back up.
Anyway, so yeah, there was some limitations that it would have been even better if there weren't. But especially for hair and stuff, I know the Kunari are still getting the short end of the stick, but compared to Acquisition, lots of the difference is astounding.
Astounding.
Yeah. Music. What did you think?
I need to listen to the host on my own time, but from what I heard, it was good.
I'm disappointed.
I know. Mike?
I don't really hear music in video games. I'm not the right person to ask. I found it serviceable in the sense that it didn't stick out badly to me.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say. I don't have an ear for this kind of things.
Yeah.
I think the track that I most remembered and commented on was during one of the dragon fights.
Yeah. The more rock music.
Yeah, like I also I agree. I like it. I kind of drowned out the music most of the time, which is why I need to listen. But whenever I catch the music, it was nice.
Yeah, once again, I have to compare to the previous games, and the music, I felt like it got better, like many parts of the game, as it went on. But there were a few tracks where it really felt like it was not Dragon Age themed. Like, I know they were trying to do an underwater theme, but it just felt more sci-fi and was weird. It really, like, it started right when you were meeting the crows, so it was even more out of place that you were hearing the underwater theme while talking to the crows. I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this theme? And there were a few, and also Belara's theme music, you know, the very quirky, fun music. It also felt very not Dragon Age. And just in general, the theme of the music felt quite different than previous games.
Yeah, it was definitely more like electronic music.
Yeah. It wasn't as fantasy and epic themed, I feel.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to the heavy
They
stuff.
part into the high fantasy sludge that this setting it kinda is. I'm not as versed in Dragon Age, but if you would told me this is a D&D campaign, I would believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I also keep in my head. I keep comparing it to something D&D.
Yeah.
I never even considered that Dragon Age is not a D&D thing.
I believe there is also Dragon Age, but D&D, but it came later.
Yeah. I think a lot of fantasy stuff by now is just like kind of leaning towards.
But it doesn't
D&D.
have to be fantasy, even if you play medieval aligned fantasy or write for medieval aligned fantasy can be vastly different, which you will learn when we watch Lord of the Rings, which is also fantasy.
yeah,
and also has wizards and elves, but it's nothing like that. It has its own identity, and I think Dragon Age Origins, from what I've played, also has its way different identity than this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Next up, we have the big ones, guys. Storyline. General impression.
Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Let's say just all over, like how did we like the story? Like where it started, where it went. And maybe like how were the plot twists? How did they?
Yeah.
Was there a wow factor?
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, I think there was. It was the Storm of Weishaupt. I think they made it was a very well, this is a small level design. But they did a great job to give you the feeling of urgency and being under fucking attack and having to do something.
Yeah.
And moving you along.
Yeah, I would say, personally, I found the story started quite weird, but then as it went on, it got better and better. Like, it doesn't give a good first impression.
I feel like the very beginning, like the first quest where I for the first time met Varric and stuff was nice. I felt like I didn't feel a deep connection to the character, but I felt like, oh yeah, you know, my buddies. Then I would also say like the whole part where you're still collecting all the companions was a little bit slow and just like, oh yeah, we go from one to one to one to one. But then when it picked up, I really enjoyed it. I think it was an easy to follow story. Any plot twists, I still have like the because I feel like Varric shouldn't have spoiled so much. Because I just feel like the story overall, like the plot twist, and like it would have been nicer if the bad times would come as a surprise and not Varric be like, oh yeah, but no, this is going to happen, and he did not know that he would have written this.
I also dislike that he even showed he told you exactly what kind of obstacle the specific
Yeah.
companion was gonna deal with, and even
Yeah.
showed you what they look like. And it added nothing to my experience. It just
Took away.
annoyed me at some point
Yeah.
because there was no surprise to be had at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like some of the stuff in the story was very. I knew exactly what was going to happen, but that's just like, you know, you can only be so sneaky.
Mm.
And the thing with Varric again, I think that's also just like if you like the style, because the ending, like when it went back to the picture stuff, you know, the slideshow at the end.
The
Yeah.
ending slide.
Yeah. I cringed so hard.
You
Like this
cringe at
whole-
the ending slides?
Yeah, like
That's a
was-
Dragon Age thing.
yeah, like it was fine in between, like, except for like the spoilers and stuff. But at the end, I was just like, I could, like hearing him and every character talk, and I was like, just.
Yeah, it's a bit different in this game, but the slides at the end is a Dragon Age thing. But it's
not just a
either
Dragon Age thing; it's an RPG thing. You have that in Fallout New Vegas as well.
No, it's
Right,
also
yeah.
not a thing. It's just like the way they speak.
Mhm.
It's just like, I cannot take this.
Yeah, it's
But I
not
guess-
as well done because in previous games it's either silent or narrated, but it shows what happens to the characters after.
Yeah.
Whereas in this time it was just very vague.
You
Yeah.
didn't even hear from your companions.
Yeah.
You just the companions only had just generic stuff to say.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't learn their fate, like, oh, Davrin is now moving up to train all the griffins, or
Yeah.
and he went on and married the first one in the deep roads or something. I don't know.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. I wanted to agree with Mike that the urgency and sense of urgency that this was nicely done. Because there were also a lot of scenes where I was like, I know that I have all the time, but I just want to run because I feel like I need to run.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also this doesn't really, like that and the ending and those issues, that doesn't really apply to the story. That's just, again, writing and dialogue, I think.
Yeah.
Like the overwriting. Because the writing is, I think, a topic for itself.
But yeah, when it comes to the ending slides, definitely they could have done a better job of giving us a conclusion, especially since there's not any after the final fight interaction with the companions or anything else like in
I would have liked that.
Inquisition and Dragon Age Origins. Yeah. That would have been nice, but they didn't do that for some reason. So for storyline, I would say, while in general it picks up and it's good by the end, there are still some things that I think were not done well, were not presented well. So yeah, we can talk more about that.
Yeah, but in general, I like the big story beats that the main quest had, where you were going after the gods several times and had several big face-off, which I feel like you need with your facing gods.
Yeah, I feel like it was done realistically that you sometimes just fail. I
Yeah.
like that. Fate,
Yeah,
then it builds
The
up more that
ending
it actually.
point of no return was also very well done.
Yeah, it just it added a real sense of like, oh, we're actually fighting a big, powerful thing. We can't just like go in there and just boom, one shot.
Yeah.
Even though one shot is a lot of things. Yeah, like it. I think this is also like why I got emotional so many times, because writing and anything aside, all in all, it really managed to convey the emotions it wanted most of the time, I feel. Even though I made a lot of fun and sometimes I don't agree with the emotions they want me to feel. But all in all, like the important scenes, I felt like they hit well. And even I got more plot twists in this game than they intended. You know?
Yes, because you were not paying attention.
Yeah.
Well,
So what do you think about the Varric reveal?
I didn't see it coming. I gotta be real.
You know,
I was-
I'm happy you didn't see it coming,
I was
because
complaining the entire time about why the fuck is he not doing anything,
Yeah,
and then
that was really funny to hear you say that. Like while playing, Varric is so useless. And, yeah.
Yeah, and also when we were talking about Solas, you were like, yeah, well, but he could have killed Varric, but he didn't because he's a good guy. But he could have, like, delicious.
No, don't put words in my mouth.
Maps did?
I for some reason I thought I said don't put mouths in my words. I don't think, or at least I did not mean to say that Solas is nice or a good guy, because I never believed that Solas is a good guy. Never, from start to finish, I never believed once that he's a good guy.
Okay, but you did praise him for not killing Varric when he could have.
Because I think don't say anything, Kat, because you already said no, I didn't. But what I remembered when I went into the game was that Kat said that Solas is probably gonna kill Varric in the next game, so this one. And when then Solas stepped him, I was like, hey, look, he didn't.
What
Look at that.
I actually thought was I was preparing before the game came out.
Yeah.
I was preparing for Varric to die, not by Solas, but I was preparing for him to die.
Yeah.
So while I was playing and I was talking to Mike about it because we're basically at the same point, I was sharing my wild theories, and one of the wild theories is, what if Varric is dead this whole time and Solas is controlling him? And I was like, when it happened, I was like, wow. I was actually correct.
Yeah,
Like, wow.
you specifically said one of my favorites that they're never gonna have the balls to actually do. Yeah.
Well, look at you now.
Yeah, because like I've mentioned previously, I found the game to be very soft. Like, so I thought that, of course they wouldn't kill Varric because they are so soft in this game. They're just so gentle in this game. But they actually did it.
Remnants of more hardcore stuff, and I think
Yeah.
this might be a good point to talk about Terevian crows. Most of my knowledge about them comes from the Reddit. But as many Dragon Age fans probably remember, there is a certain character companion named Severin.
Yeah.
Who's also an Antivian crow.
And
what
even
the game
Crow.
doesn't, whatever. And what the game doesn't really, they go about if crow always finishes their contract. But what they do not tell you is if the crow does not finish their contract, they get killed by another crow. Stuff like that. And the crows also do stuff like they buy child slaves and then they let them fight for scraps, and only one emerges, and then they will get trained as an assassin. So you have a lot of people falling to the wayside in the training. And in the game, this is slightly referenced in Lucan's dialogue, where he says he was a special case. He was trained by Katarina herself. So, but it was still torture. So even if since he had privileged circumstances, they were still horrible for him. But it's a blink and you miss it moment in banter. And the rest of the crows, you could think they are some Robin Hood-like figure.
Yeah, definitely. They really,
very family.
they really changed the air around them in this game.
Yeah.
Definitely, like based on I don't know if I'm a huge Dragon Age fan, but I don't read every fucking lore entry. So based on Dragon Age Origins, which is where we meet Zervan and stuff, the only impression you get while playing the game is that the crows are just a guild of assassins. You don't get the impression that they are the only basically military and defense in Antiva.
A few times, but
in Origins, you don't get that impression.
Yeah. In Veilguard, you got the impression they are like a big family and they care for, young Jacobus, who has a lot of dialogue if you keep interacting with him. And even let him fucking found his own house. Oh. I don't think, at the end he will have his own house where he says he will pick orphans from the street and then there will be a family together, and kinda completely scared by the fact that their business is killing.
Yeah.
And Lucanus has banter dialogue where I think with Devrin, where he asks him if he also kills innocent people, and then Lucanus replies, only worthy targets, and they try to play it off as a gray zone because, who are you to decide who is worthy? But I don't think this is how assassins work. I think they get a contract.
Yeah.
And they will kill whoever they get paid for.
Yeah.
And that's where their morality ends.
Yeah.
That feels more like how I'm playing my mercenary in SWTOR. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna kill you. Do you deserve to be dead? I don't know.
Yeah, it's I like how the crows are in Veilguard, but it's a very different. Like, for example, if they went more with the Dragon Age Origins way, I would consider the crow faction to be something you would pick perhaps if you want to be a more ruthless character. But
I think, no.
But you don't get that option in this game in any capacity. All the factions are very good. So
I think they could have pulled off a more evil or gray, morally ambiguous Assassin's Guild still, even for good allying characters in this game. Because the justification is you need any help you can get. And what the game, I think, fails to convey at the start is that the reason, why the first warden doesn't believe you is because what you are saying is insanity. It's like saying, I need the national army to come to my aid because Zeus and Athena are coming back,
Yeah.
and also they're bringing the pest.
Yeah.
And of course everyone is looking at you, what the fuck are you saying, you
It
idiot?
wasn't just a headache.
But because the first NPCs you tell this, which are the Strife and whatever her face from the Whale Jumpers, and like, oh yeah, the gods are back, and they're like, oh yeah, of course, we will help you, no questions asked. And then you meet Belara, and you're like, the gods are back, and they're evil, and she's like, oh, this explains everything, let me help you. And then you go to the next official guy, the Grey Warden, and he's like, no, this is insane. And at this point, as the player, I didn't get what his fucking problem was.
Yeah.
But back to the crows. The way you could have made this work is you have a contact to the crows. Either you are a crow yourself, or Nev had the contact, and she knows about this guy who is a mage stabber, and the gods are maybe just some really powerful mages. So you go to them and employ their help because nobody else believes you, and they just work with you because you give them a contract, and that's who they are.
Yeah.
And they might not even believe those are the gods. They just believe you have a powerful target. Those are mages. Okay, we can do something about
Yeah.
that. And this would work really easily.
I had a similar thing with me not knowing about the crows, what they were and stuff like that, with the threats in Manrathas. Because, like, they made it obvious that, from the reactions of others, that, like, working with the threats, like, why the fuck are you working with the threats, you know? We hate them. But even, okay, I don't know if I just missed some stuff, but I never really got enough context to actually know why the threats are so bad.
They're
Right.
like underground protection, probably extortion agency.
Yeah, but it's like at the end when we're gathering allies and everything, then the other lady, when we're at the tavern, the other lady goes to Nev and is like, why the fuck are we working with them? Like, we have bigger issues than whatever they are doing. Because I never felt like it's such a big deal to work with the threats. But this one lady was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, the threads I'm pretty sure are a new thing. They weren't in the previous games.
Yeah, but like even that was like, they could have been more aggressive with being like, these are actually like, this is controversial that we're getting their help.
Yeah.
The most controversial thing we see a member of the Threads doing is not
trying to sell this newspaper.
the newspaper guy.
Alec, yeah.
Alec. who is trying to scam this one guy
Yeah.
very mightily, and then Nev's like, oh, by the way, this is a scam, and he's like, haha, good fun, Nev, I'm not angry or anything, I will help you, no problem, finger guns. Yeah, this is the face of a horrible crime syndicate that I fear working together with.
I told him I want to
speaking-
buy embalming fluid.
I told him I wanna scam him back.
And I told him I'm only interested if he has poisons.
Wow.
We are the
I'm
real problem.
judgy. Speaking of Minrathers, something that I only learned from the Reddit because I did not comprehend it in the game at all is that Minrathers is supposed to be this powerful mage city.
Yeah.
Where mages are ruling and they are horrible and they used to have an empire.
Yep.
And they are full of slaves. I did not get that impression at all.
No, me neither.
Nev keeps saying, oh, this is a bad town and only I can keep it alive and this is horrible, but it is home. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the city is a bit ugly, but it's not that bad.
I was like, this feels like when I was in Prague.
Yeah, it's once again soft. The winter, because the previous games were set in the south, Ferelden, very different areas. The winter is basically like the bad example. Like they have slavery, mages rule everything, which in the south mages are feared. So they're like, oh my god,
mages,
blood
oh my
mages are ruling basically, and there is blood magic corruption in the winter. That's why Dorian, who was in Inquisition, is basically a pariah because he's against all of this, the status quo and stuff in the winter. They also have the Chantry has what they call a black divine, which is a man, whereas in other parts of the world they have a woman divine. So yeah.
Divine is basically like a pope.
Yeah, the
right?
Pope, yeah.
Yeah, this fell completely through in the game for me. The whole slavery thing especially. There's one slave interaction that I remember. This is when you are in the necropolis.
Yeah, where you find,
where you meet this guy, and then Emric goes, there are no slaves on Nevara soil, and I thought, nice sentiment, but holy bad dialogue.
Yeah, I remember when that happened, I said they just put this guy here to show how nice Emric is.
Yeah, I thought, Jesus Christ, this
Yeah.
is no...
Because the Venatori they started in the winter, so all the evil guys started in the winter, and slavery is in the winter, so that's why they have slaves, but because this game doesn't dare, I guess, I don't know if they are retconning some parts. I don't think so. I just think they are just very gently, avoiding the controversial stuff when it comes to that.
They were very insistent that the Venatori are evil and bad, but as a new person, you don't understand why. Nev keeps saying, oh, the Venatori will keep taking over Minrathers if you don't come help us right now. And you're like, okay, I get that you don't want that, but I don't understand why you don't want that, because nobody ever tells you why they are so bad, except they are generic bad guys.
Yeah, in the dialogue that they throw around when you fight them, I just feel like it's like the most cheesiest, haha, I'm evil lines. Like twirls the mustache.
I have since learned that there are hardcore supremacist blood mages who,
there is a lot of blood
into
when you kill
torture
one.
and slavery, and they want to bring back the supremacy of the fallen empire. And that's why
There was some human trafficking.
there's some huge cultists, and it's not like the game doesn't have that. They do have a lot of human sacrifices, people working with demons, meat grinder stuff. Every time you think Minrathers cannot be hit harder, they hit it again, and you think, oh my god, it's already dead. So it's at certain points they do not pull punches. This was the original point that I wanted to make with the crows too. There are some hints, like in Lucaris' backstory, where he just casually tells you that he was tortured by his grandmother. for his training, but he still loves her because family, blah blah, and he doesn't even seem to really comprehend how fucked up this is, not on a deep level, just on a superficial level. And there could be stuff done with that. They show human sacrifices and huge piles of bodies and a hauler being sacrificed horrifically.
I laughed when I saw that.
But in other parts, they seem the people who wrote the specific things doesn't seem to be talking to each other. It's like someone will say, make a quest for Minrathos, and they make a quest that fits into the setting, but it's just a side quest. And the people who were in charge of the overall story were like, okay, let's be gentle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely my impression that it's just inconsistent with its tone.
Which also fits like dialogues, because some dialogue stuff also is very disconnected. It feels like it was a group project and everyone did their thing and then they just threw it together. I think the reason why it's so soft could be because right now on the internet everything is getting cancelled for everything, so they were probably just like trying to make a game, which is okay, you know.
It's cancel culture's fault all along.
I mean, yeah, but it is a thing. Like, I'm so exhausted by what's going on the internet with like games. Like, you try to take time to bring out to release a game and people are mad. You rush a game, people are mad. You put something vogue in a game, people are mad. You don't do it, people are mad. It's like you cannot win.
People are always mad. And I'm tired of this fucking discourse, because I rarely even know what is going on, because when something, I don't see things getting cancelled because I do not hang out on Twitter, and so I don't want to say, oh, this is the fault of cancel culture. It might just be the fault of this game being in development held for 10 years and was supposed to be an MMO like Anthem, and then Anthem crashed and burned, and then they could convince them, maybe do not make the next Dragon Age an MMO, and then they just had to salvage the parts that were already there.
Could be. I'm just throwing stuff out that could be, you know. I don't think there's probably not just one reason why the game is the way it is. It's probably just a lot of things coming together. I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Since we're already at the topic, we need to talk about Rook and their personality.
Yes.
And the fact that you are basically the group's therapist. And you're always very supportive, and you're always so sorry.
I have to make all the decisions. I cannot.
Yeah, Rook's personality feels more set than previous Dragon Age games. Like, if number 10 is Dragon Age Origins, where you didn't even hear your character speak, so you knew exactly what they would say and you could morph them exactly like you wanted. Dragon Age the Veilguard is the most, you get a ton of auto dialogue, things you didn't know your character would say. You cannot be mean. You can only be strict sometimes. Most of the time, even the more the serious dialogue option, it's still like very, very nice. Like, your Rook is, no matter the dialogue option you pick, Rook is said to be a certain way, which is a nice person that is very supportive of their crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's less of an RPG, it's more of a story driven in that regard. You're not playing your character, you're playing a character.
In a way.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
I
just had earlier a dialogue option with Devrin. He was making his little figurines. And I picked the sarcastic option, and my guy said, oh, I'm sure this will help us once we get attacked by miniature monsters. And this was so sarcastic that I was like, oh my god, I'm allowed to say that? I didn't know. Because this is not a common occurrence to be this sarcastic and almost mean about his hobby. you know.
Yeah, also, I have to say, the sarcastic dialogue options were so disappointing to me. Because in Dragon Age 2 specifically, that is where the sarcastic icon and dialogue option came from. And in that game, you were so fucking ridiculously funny. Oh my god. And I thought I would get something similar in Veilguard, but this funny dialogue option is Rook going, haha, yeah, awkward, oof.
Yeah, oh my god, there was so much dialogue like that, where Belara, I love her, but she constantly says things like, oh, looks like we're doing this, and, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I did not even understand for the beginning what the 3 images really mean. Like, I guess thumbs up is good and positive, and I did not know if the mask.
I don't think the dialogue tree even knows sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, because the masks, at first I thought, like, am I making fun of them? Am I trying to be funny? Like, I did not know what it means. And then sometimes I feel just like I was being sarcastic, sometimes I was trying to make a joke, and sometimes when I pressed it, I just had a normal response. Like, it could have also been a thumbs up. It was very inconsistent about like how it comes out.
Yeah.
Also, the stern option a lot of times was also just super friendly.
Which option?
The stern one.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that does is when you pick it in a scene, your character puts his arms into his hips.
Yeah.
And gets a power stand. Yeah. Like, stop doing that.
Like, sometimes the answer.
Yeah. No, go first.
Sometimes the stern option is just shorter. That was my impression.
I'm used from BioWare games, like Esvitor, sort of. When you have also 3 answering options most of the time. The top one is the I'm nice option, the second one is the please say more things at me option, and the lower one is I'm absolutely insane and I will eat you for breakfast. And then I'm gonna piss on your mother, kind of insane. So that sometimes I do not have the bravery to click the third option because I'm like, I cannot be this mean. And this was carrying over a little bit into Veilguard, but then I realized there is never a point where you're not allowed to pick the lower option because you're still always very reasonable.
Can I quickly say what I had in mind before I forgot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this one thing where I used the silly option and Belara actually went off on me for a small second, like, this is no time to joke. I was like, oh god, okay, I'm sorry. It's hard to read the room sometimes in this game when you don't know what your responses are supposed to convey.
Yeah, and especially with the auto dialogue.
Yeah. Like, I am fortunate that I guess most of the time my Rook's responses aligned with what I want to say. But yeah, it's sometimes I was really struggling with my decisions because I just did not know what they mean. Sometimes it was because I was not paying attention to what was being said. Sometimes it was just because I was you know, when the dialogue option says oof and your character's like, well, this is awkward. Like, no.
Yeah. I think Veilguard will be the game that makes Dragon Age 2 come under a new positive light, because Dragon Age 2 was also criticized a lot as being the bad Dragon Age game because it had a set character, Hawk. And however, even though they were like, oh, you cannot really roleplay, you play as Hawk always, Hawk could have 3 very distinct personalities based on what you picked. And it was still very, you know, fun to play as them because you could have very different experiences depending on the dialogue option you picked. But in Veilguard, you cannot do that anymore.
I still feel, I think, from all the role-playing games that I played, Cyberpunk was the one that actually I enjoyed the dialogue tree the most, because it, for me at least, it was always almost exactly what I expected it would say, and yeah, it was the easiest for me to maneuver. I did not have to be scared that I will have a glass sim scene there.
Yeah.
Veilguard, like I said, it's okay, but I feel like a lot of things could have been better described in the dialogue tree.
Yeah.
However, I appreciate that sometimes in the dialogue tree they give a little bit of extra information of like what you mean by that. For example, if you say this will happen.
Yeah,
They put
in
that
in big choices. Yeah, that's a good thing.
And like the thing I appreciate with Dragon Age a lot is that it is, I don't know, I don't have a better word. It is very dumped down in some regards. That like me being the bumbling idiot going through there, the game is like, hey, if you do this, this is going to happen. Like in the or at the ending where it tells you if you choose this companion, you have to choose a companion. You should choose one that is good for this. Like
Yeah.
they help you a lot. They make things very obvious. When you struggle for 10 seconds with a thing, all your companions will be like, I wonder if we can use a device to point at the wall. Sometimes it's the same with the yellow paint, you know, some people are annoyed by this, but sometimes you have people like that guy who tried to play that Legend of Zelda game and was just lost. Or, you know, some people are dumb, some people need the yellow paint. I need the yellow paint.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. However, this dumping down thing happens throughout the entire game, and also it's very evident in the dialogue. And with Varric, his cutscenes where he repeats the same things and he spoils, as you said.
Yeah.
This is something in Veilguard specifically that I don't is one of the negatives for me, definitely. This this lack of faith in the player to understand what's going on, and repeating it 5 times and telling you like, oh, you know, this is happening, this character is gonna have somebody banned after them, ooh, you know, it just feels weird.
Yeah, that's what I also feel like with the overall aesthetic of the game. It doesn't really feel like a mature game in that regard. It just feels like I said, it's just like it's not one of my favorite games ever. It's not super wow effect. It's just a nice game, you know. I had a nice playthrough. There's nothing in there where I would say, holy shit, this was crazy, or it was just I mean, it has a lot of memorable and cool shit in there, but overall it was just like, yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah. It's sad to hear you say that it's not a mature game, because Dragon Age has been very mature, especially the first game. So to have it so not only dumped down but also like sanitized, it's very unfortunate. It affects every aspect, and we are going to talk about it more: the dialogues, the storyline, and the romances.
Yeah, some things shined through to me as well, because stuff like me being a hopeless romantic for Solus, you know. But for example, because I feel like with Solus, especially towards the ending and in other scenes and decisions as well, I got very emotional. Like some of the stuff in the game hit me, but it was just always just like a small scene where I was like, ooh, wow. The things that it surprised me every time something actually got a little bit emotional and deep. I will go into this when we talk, for example, about romances or something, because Emmerich was the perfect character for me. I don't think I would have enjoyed the game as much as I have if I didn't romance or just like focus on Emmerich, because he did a lot for me with this game.
Yeah.
Just from the dialogue I could have with him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kat.
You should be sorry.
I don't even mean it like from the romance, just like his character and his journey and the topic of death and everything is hits home with me very well. But it was handled in a way where I did not get too upset. It was just like, okay, yeah, it was nice. I would love to have a person like that to talk to in real life.
Yeah.
I wanna say about Emmerich, because we were just at the topic of sanitization. I found him too sanitized to be interesting. I know a lot of people love him. He is at the top of everyone's companion list. But he's a necromancer, and his whole stick is that he is a polite gentleman. Okay, he's afraid of death, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If I have a necromancer companion, I want him to be kind of hardcore, and he's like, okay, you might as well be into dinosaurs. It would not change a whole lot about his character. I think doesn't matter that he goes to the graveyard with you to have some ceremony. It's all you could have put this into a nice garden where he tells you about his favorite dinosaur bones.
I mean, he likes flowers.
Yes, he likes flowers. I understand he's well written and he's everyone's favorite, but for me he was not super interesting. I didn't have him in my party a lot because he's just not my vibe.
Yeah, I think that's just a taste thing.
Yeah, I also think so. I don't think he is a bad companion. I found it amazing that they could actually turn him into a lich. I didn't think the game had the balls to do it. He looks hardcore as a lich.
Because for me, I told you, I only ever warmed up to necromancers in Baldur's Gate through Balthazar, who is the exact opposite of Emmerich. But I remember when I saw Emmerich, I was like, I'm not that easy. But then when I read that he's a necromancer and actually like super nice, that was exactly what was interesting to me. Like having a sanitized gentleman necromancer, for me that is something where I was like, holy shit, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if we should move on to romances so I can touch upon that. But yeah, Emmerich is definitely I don't think it's only the fan favorite. I think he was the dev favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're touching on the romances, we'll talk more in depth. The difference in the amount of content Emmerich gets compared to other romances is crazy so far. I don't know how it is with Tash, Nev, and Bellara, but I feel like it's not gonna be that different in that Emmerich gets so much more specific content for his romance. He gets an exclusive date cutscene. He gets multiple kisses. He gets different. I think his final scene might be a bit different depending on if he's a lich or not. Like, I don't know. What the hell?
Yeah. I think I 100% agree. I think that that's really like Emmerich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually. I mean, I said I'm so sorry so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I like it because yay Emmerich content. Though I'm not a big fan of romances. I only romance them for the content.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I saw a little bit. Like I just went through Tumblr and saw a little bit of Lucaris, romance and stuff like that. I mean, I have the exact comparison to just being in task quests, just in general, not even romance, just normal. And I just feel like they are so weird and short. Meanwhile, Emmerich's quests are just so long.
Yeah.
Like there is an insane difference in content for the companions, which is really sad.
Yeah, and it shouldn't have happened, I think. Like,
No.
quality-wise, it should not have happened that it's such a huge difference. Like, in Inquisition, yes, for example, Solas got the least amount of romance content because he came very late in production, but he still had proper romance content, which in Veilguard, it's laughable how little content there is, for example, for Davrin and Lucanis compared to Emmerich.
Yeah. Maybe they would patch in more romance. Oh, I see my friend who also played wrote a review on Steam for the game. It's a positive review with 56.1 hours, but also I just skimmed through it, and the first thing I saw is the music is also forgettable but isn't bad, which is
Yeah.
what we said as well.
Yeah.
And I also feel as if there's not enough that happens when you romance
Yep.
Lucaris the Crow.
Yep.
Was a bit disappointed over that bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't like this is not even an us opinion, I think it's just like a fact.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
As someone who romanced Lucaris already, Kat, do you want to know all the details? Because you...
No. Can you be vague, please?
I will try. So what you also experience at this point is if you pick a flirt option with Lucaris, it's basically he either ignores you,
Yeah.
he does not react, or he reacts to something else you said as if you hadn't just said that, and reacts as if you had picked one of the other options. There were several times in the game where I thought I have broken his romance somehow. And I know that others had the same issues where they were Googling if they had accidentally locked themselves out somehow. Because he does not recuperate at all. The big romance scene before the final fight, there is one scene where I would say, okay, this is explicitly romantic. There is one scene that is where you commit to the romance. I have told you about it. I have told both of you about it, so I'm gonna mention it here. The big romantic gesture is that he made dessert, but he doesn't even make dessert for Rook. He made dessert that goes with Rook's favorite drink, but he made it for everyone. And then you have this conversation about this dessert while standing 2 meters apart. And that locks you into the romance. And
Amazing.
if the game wouldn't tell you, you would not think that. Because and the very first quest you have with Lucaris, it doesn't matter if you are romancing him or not, is that he takes you to the market and he buys everyone a gift, except Rook.
Yeah.
He does not buy Rook a gift.
Yeah,
And
fuck
then
Rook.
buys him a gift, and he still does not get Rook anything in return. And basically, and he at the same time he has a lot of chemistry with Neff. They two will start a relationship if you don't romance either of them, but they will flirt from the get-go. And they have a good chemistry, and with her you see that he's actually capable of being romantic and doing stuff. So you constantly get the feeling that you're bothering this guy.
Yeah.
And you just he just wants to have a conversation with his boss, and the boss makes some inappropriate comment, and he's like,
Anyway.
okay, if I ignored that and pretend it didn't happen, it doesn't have to be real. The later romance scenes after the point of no return, they are nice. They're very well done. But the way up to that, at some point I was pursuing Tosh, and there was more going on there. And then I just committed to him because I thought, what the hell, I went this far, so might as well see this through. But there's a really weird disconnect to this. And they have this character who is a trained assassin. He's basically Antivan Crow nobility with being, Katarina's grandson, the grandson of the first Talon, and he is her favorite, but it's also a weird past. And then his cousin betrayed him, and he was in the underwater prison, and he has this demon spite in him, and it's
so underdeveloped.
It has insane potential.
Yeah.
And his hobbies are he likes coffee, and he likes to cook for others, not for Rook. For others.
Yeah.
And Spite makes more of an effort to talk to you than Lucanis does.
I feel with Lucanis just in general, like I don't write a lot, but I feel like I could write the spiciest fanfics for him. Just based on the character, like whatever character I grab from it's so easy.
Yeah,
It's
Lucanis
so
is
easy.
fan fiction bait.
He is, and I think one of the most common topics on the subreddit are so about the Lucanus romance because everyone is fucking disappointed. But there are people who are not disappointed, and I think these people are snorting copium.
Yes.
There is no other explanation because the as I said, the one I would say the one proper romance scene you have of him at the end game, it's really well done. I will not talk about it here,
Thank you.
but I prefer that actually over the Emmerich scene. But the Emmerich scene is also nice, but I think Lucanus hit a different note that I preferred. It just needed a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And what is especially disappointing that I've seen that if you all the little things in the end game that I thought happened to me because I romanced Lucaris did also happen to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like when you have when you get pulled out of the Veil jail, I thought, okay, I hear Lucanus first because he's my romance, so of course he is the first in front. But then Buck
You
also
thought.
heard him first. I think from the difference was that in Buck's case, Emmerich pulled you out. This was Emmerich Arms, and in my case, Lucanus pulled me out. So that was one change. But also before you get sent to the Fate jail, you have this point where you turn around and you think Lucanus is dead, and then he turns into Varric. And I thought that of course that happens because he is my romance.
Nope.
And for everyone else it would be the romance, or whoever is closest, your highest opinion if you don't romance anyone. But no, it's always Lucanus, and yeah, stuff like that. Or when you see him fighting against the mage and then Tia kills the mage because Lucanus is a fucking horrible at his job apparently.
Yeah.
And you have this little moment where you just stare at each other. I thought, okay, I have this a little bit drawn out moment because it's a romance, but no, it isn't. Yeah, and with my current playthrough, I'm romancing Belara. I think I had one option to flirt so far, and since then she also hasn't deemed it necessary to talk to me. I guess I need to progress through the main story a little bit to open that up, and then I'll see.
Yeah.
I feel such a weird sense of guilt.
Yeah, I just in general, excluding Emmerich, it's just so underwhelming and disappointing, especially if we take into account the previous games. The previous games, they're very mature, especially in Origins. You get like this super cringy, but you get a sex scene with your companion. You can then kiss them at any time. That was great. They never did that again for some reason. And it's the same in Dragon Age 2. You get a full-on multiple specific romantic scenes. In Inquisition, you get full nudity even. And then in Veilguard, you get one final little scene at the end where there is the implication that something happened and nothing else, and a kiss if you're lucky. I romanced Davrin on my first playthrough. We got like one. We didn't get any special cutscenes. There was a kiss on one of his quests with Asan, because Davrin is all about Asan. And then the final scene at the end where there is a romance scene where it's implied that you did the Devil's Tango. And that's basically it. There's nothing else. Oh yeah, and a fight.
Yeah, the fight.
They get I guess it's meant to, the romance option gets angry at you or something. I don't know.
I didn't have that with Lucanus, but I think that's because he doesn't even talk to me.
Yeah, Lucanus gets even less, and I'm so looking forward to that for my second playthrough, where I made the wrong choice and said, okay, I'm gonna commit to Lucanus, and I've had nothing.
Lucanus, there is some nice stuff there, but there's a lot of infuriating stuff there. At the start, I didn't even realize that he and Neff were flirting because I'm an idiot, and I thought, oh, it's nice that Lucanus cares so much about Neff since his city was destroyed and we saved his city, so of course he has some guilt about that. What a good friend. Yes, but what I think is even more insulting is that if you are, for example, a shadow dragon and you save, of course, Minrathous because that's your city, you lock yourself out of Lucanus' romance, and his reasoning is, "I'm sorry, Rook, but I don't have. My heart has to be with Tivia right now. I don't have room in my heart for a romance or whatever." But he does have room in his heart for Nev.
Yeah. I
Oh,
didn't
is
think
the
about that.
About.
He is in the exact same position as you, that she chose Minrathous over, his city.
He's a fucking liar.
So yeah, that feels awful.
Yeah, what the fuck? I didn't think about that. Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's
There's
like
this whole thing that the subreddit is talking about. But I will get to in a second, but you want to say something first.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because romance in Dragon Age games has always been a huge thing, but it feels like they slapped the romance on last minute as an afterthought or something, without consideration to everything else built around it, like the Nev romance and the decisions. I don't know. Doesn't make sense.
What a lot of the subreddit is talking about, and that I hardly agree with, is that it often feels like the companions don't like Rook, they tolerate them.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea that the banter that you don't hear because you don't take these two companions with you, they just have those banters in the lighthouse, so it looks like they're actually interacting with each other. But since you cannot talk to the companions yourself, it looks like, oh, you see these two characters standing next to each other, you run up, they look at you, look at each other, they say their line, and then they look at you like, why are you still here? And then you leave. And through notes, you learn stuff like they have a book club that you're not invited to, not because they were explicitly not invited, but because apparently nobody bothers to tell you.
Wow.
Velara makes notes about who brings something to the potluck, and nobody invited you. You often get stuff where the companions, they visit each other, they talk to each other, not just the banter. They have whole conversations. Like Belara and Nev are heavily implied to be good friends, where Belara admires Nev, and Nev wants to do nice things for Belara because Belara is cute. Nobody ever visits you. Nobody asks, how are you, Rook? How are you dealing with all of this?
Besides Varric, who was in his head.
Besides Varric, who was in his head and was also Solas. I'm not sure how much of Varric was Solas, but I think at least partially, since Solas conjured up Varric specifically to trick Rook. Partially of what Varric is saying is Solas saying it. So when Varric says, "Oh, yeah, Chuckles, he doesn't mean to be. He means to be the good guy. He has a soft heart." I think that's Solas trying to hype himself up or manipulate you in some way.
I don't know. There
Anyway,
are
that's not.
multiple interpretations on what Varric is.
Yeah.
I think
We can get to that later,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just want to dwell on the nobody really likes Rogue part. They only take you along to be their therapist, to help you with something specific. They don't seem to take you along to spend time with you, except Devrin, because Devrin is a bro. Devrin, no matter if you romance him or not, he says, "I want to hang out in the city. Do you want to accompany me?" And it's like, yes, nice. With everyone else,
Sorry.
"Oh, I need your help kill this blood mage. I need your help defeat my evil cousin." Just Devrin is like, "I just want to hang out with you, bro."
I'm sorry, you said city. I think you mean Elephant Forest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
I disagree actually.
Yeah, Dabrin is he gets points because his quests are like hang out in the forest with my son.
No, fuck
Yeah.
it. I don't really like. I know I said yes at the beginning, but the more I think about it, I don't really get the feeling that they don't like Rook. Because I feel like I'm very friendly with everyone. Like they invite me out to go get a drink. I got invited for dinner.
You got invited for dinner by Emric.
No.
Gosh.
By whom? By Tash. Oh
No,
yeah, that's right.
not even Tash. Someone else. Neff wanted to take me out for dinner, but it didn't work. Like that was how our request started. She was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get something to eat," and then stuff came in the way, and was like, "Oh fuck, I guess we're not gonna eat."
Right.
Mm.
Also, I wanna try something real quick.
I'm so sorry.
Nice.
Oh,
Wonderful. I will give you Nev. Nev even hands you some fish, I think, at the end. of it.
Yeah, we're buying.
Yeah.
fish.
But with Tash, I feel like you come along because they need moral support.
Yeah, but Tash is also, I think, just a unique case in many aspects.
Dash gets a whole section by themselves
Yeah.
when it comes to how it's written, the dialogue.
I think.
I don't think people. When I say they don't like Rook, I don't mean they dislike them.
Yeah.
I just they don't like them as much as anyone else. Like, okay, of course we include Rook, but not always.
Yeah, it definitely feels more like you're the boss of everyone, and you just check in on everyone's like, okay, how are we doing here? Are we doing the group therapy? But I still think like the interactions are very like friendly. I think especially with Belara, it's very on a friend basis.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a little bit awkward when this character wants to talk, but then it's a scene where you walk in and they're like, "Oh, Rook, hi," because that is just like the impression of your boss walks into you doing some weird shit at work. But
Yeah,
when they
and that's
actually sit down and like, "Oh yeah, you wanna come along?" That is more like, "Oh yeah, we're friends. Hey, come on, I invite you."
for most parts, I don't think that's the we are friends come along part. I give you Tash. I give you the thing that Tash invited you for drinks at the very end. That's
me
something that Tash actually did. But like as much as I like Belara, more like she asks you to come along because she needs someone reliable
Yeah.
to come along, not because she wants to hang out with you. She needs someone to come do her work with her. And it feeds back that nobody is ever checking in on Rook. How are you feeling about this? I was playing a Kunari. Tosh once asked me, "Oh, did you also learn about the fucking ropes on the arm, how to bind them? Because you're also a Kunari." And that's the end of it. How anyone was, checking in on my Rook.
I think this is a similar thing to what I talked about with Kat earlier. It's just like the thing of my interpretation of things is just you can only guess what they intended for all these interactions, and then it also comes along with how well did the writers do, how well did the voice actor do, how do you interpret the scene, how do you interpret what they're trying to say, because this was on the topic of the dinner with Tosh and their mother, which I feel where Kat and I don't really agree on everything. And I think that's just like because there are different ways you can interpret it depending on just your personal way that you pick up like the vibe and everything.
Yeah.
So when I feel like I interpret some of the interactions more as on a friend basis, and you don't get it, I think that's just like reinterpreting or picking the stuff up differently.
I feel like what would really help with this feeling is that the companions would ask you anything about yourself. The only time, well, it's very rare in between that someone asks you about your background. Prominently, Emmerich, when you recruit him, he asks you, "Oh, where did you grow up?" And then, depending on your background, your character will say something like, "I grew up mainly in Antivia." And this stands out because basically no one else cares.
Yeah. I think this is just like it can be intentionally or not. We will never know. It could just be bad.
I don't think
writing.
it's intentional.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to say that. I think it's just a combination of things that are happening didn't have a good turnout. as I said, I think the idea that you see the banter of the companions that you normally wouldn't see is a good idea, because that takes off the pressure of I should bring this character, because otherwise I will miss stuff of the banter with tidbits of lore and their backstory. But the way it's implemented and all the other stuff is weird. In most RPGs, like the old Dragon Ages and Baldur's Gate, for example, you can just go up to your companion, be like, "Hey, what's up? Tell me about yourself," and then they will tell you something, and then you can react however you want, and that's how you build your character and your own backstory. That's missing from Veilguard. You cannot walk up to your companions. I mean, you can, and then they will say, "Oh, hey, Rook," and then you leave.
Yeah. It's well, in Origins you could do that. You could talk to them at any time. They never did that again, I think. And yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is.
Yeah.
In Inquisition, I think you can walk up to the companions and ask them some generic questions. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues of feeling a connection or the vibes is it's just a writing thing. I think just some of the writing, like, writing is a hard job, but it could have been better in this game.
Yeah, the writing is very hit or miss. In some of the main story stuff, especially later on in the game, it picks up a lot. I think it gets very good. The solo stuff is, I like them. But the dialogue and narrative wise, like some of the side quests and everything, I found it there was repetition a lot and not trust in the player understanding what's going on and things like that. For example, Bellara. See, I know you guys love her, but however, she says, "Oh, my brother, he was my anchor. He kept me grounded." She says that line over and over, like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
Yes. Bellara has also in her introduction quest. First off, her introduction is horrible. She comes in like a fucking goofball. Like, "Oh, hey, hi,"
People.
like, what the fuck? Yes, and walks like a fucking Pixar character. And her introduction quest made me dislike her a lot, especially because she keeps. First, she does the thing, oh my god, this is this thing, and then just doesn't say what the fuck she thinks this is, why this is important. Just speak, girl. And then when she finally says, "Oh, this is the spirit thing," she reminds the spirit archive. She reminds us what this is like 3 or 4 times within the same quest. And then you come up to the fucking spirit archive, and then your companion, Neff or Harding or whoever you talk is like, "And what is this now?" And she says, "This is a spirit archive." And you think, do you think I have amnesia game?
Yeah.
I got it the first time.
Yeah, this is a thing where it's like they don't trust the player remembering or understanding what's going on multiple times.
Yeah, can I
No.
okay, so
No, go ahead.
I wrote this and said this a lot of time with the churros analogy. So I had a conversation with Harding, and it was about her when she got her magic powers. And I don't know if it was I think it might have been a mage option or something. And I was like, oh, maybe you get the stone magic because, you're a dwarf, you're the children of stone, and that's why you have this special ability. And the conversation just goes like, I tell her that, and then the next sentence, basically, she's immediately, "Oh yeah, because, we are dwarves.
Children of the stone.
We're children of the stone. This might be." And then my rook was like, "Oh, wow, yeah,
Oh.
that could actually be." And I'm like, "Bro, I brought it up." And it was that, like, there wasn't a space between the conversation. It was the same conversation, which how I got the feeling that maybe it's just the thing that they, like, the dialogue tree is just a mess, and they did not really took into account all the time that to say, if this conversation happens, this does not happen, or this triggers if this happens, which is why they basically did not account for if a mage tells her that she does not need to tell you this.
Yeah.
And I guess this is like this happens so much, which is like that was the first thing that fucked me up so much with the game, that it's so repetitive with the dialogue sometimes, and it's so fucking annoying. Because also like this conversation she brought up again later again. I'm like, I know, I told you first. We talked about this. And
Yeah.
with Lara as well, with the archives, like the entire quest is just her saying, hey, we're gonna get the archive is this. Hey, we're gonna get the archive is this. And then 10 hours later in the game, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have the archive is this. Like, I know. I went there with you. You got it.
Yeah, it's just the dialogue is not it's the dialogue, and how a good chunk of the narrative is written is the worst in the series, unfortunately. Like I said, it picks up, but the first part, the first impression is pretty bad compared to previous games.
Yeah.
I have the overall feeling of the game, which is almost like you have priorities while you're working on the game, and they probably just wrote the main story plot points, then filled in the blanks. And as well, something that I visually picked up on is they are very inconsistent in when they put in animated cutscenes. For example, you have when you go into a conversation and talk with a character, I think there are 2 or 3 different symbols for when a character wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
One is when there's a cutscene, one is when they just invite you to a cutscene, basically. And sometimes you have a conversation with them that is a small cutscene which is animated. And sometimes you have a similar conversation, but it's not animated. And I think that is a production thing where they probably had to time crunch, and it was just like, with just character sits in one corner, the other in the other, one is blurry, one is not. And it feels very inconsistent in when you get what kind of quality.
Yeah.
So I believe it's really just a thing you can probably just very clearly see what was a priority and what was added then later on, where they rushed some stuff.
I wasn't even sure, like the icons, the only icon I understood was when there was a timer, like that warns you, hey, if you do other stuff, this dialogue might disappear. I understand
I did not
that.
understand that. I was so confused by what they meant.
That is what
The
it meant.
exclamation mark means they will give you a quest.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got.
Sometimes I
okay.
didn't get a quest when they had an exclamation mark.
Oh.
It was just like, they
didn't
want
pay
to talk
attention.
for me, exclamation mark. And the other thing, I was just like, I don't know, they want to talk, but it's not that important. I have no fucking idea.
Yeah,
It was
anyway,
very-
it's just weird. Too many icons. You didn't need that many, whatever.
Yeah, it's the same with the dialogue options. It's like the icons are there, but they don't really hold much meaning.
Yeah. They just slap them on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah. So, since we're talking about dialogue and stuff, let's briefly talk about the terms that personally I found that they were too modern, especially compared to previous games in the Dragon Age series. I'm talking about TAS saying non-binary and trans, other characters saying trans. And this is coming from somebody who is non-binary. I would have preferred if they did not use those terms in a fantasy Dragon Age setting. It felt very out of place. In previous games, we have an exclusively gay character. We have Dorian, and we have a trans character, Krem, and they don't say gay and trans, but they get the point across very clearly without needing to use terms that feel very modern and weird, out of place. Like the presentation was done very differently, and I feel much better in Inquisition when it comes to that. I would have liked Tas's quest to have been more in universe, fitting in universe. Like with their mother, we were going there with the mother trying to understand, and saying, oh, we have this term in the Kunari language, Akunathlok, which means that you don't fit in the gender roles. But this is brushed aside and also used negatively, like, oh, she said this, so she's bad for saying this, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, Tash specifically says, "Stop picking at me."
Yeah, stop picking at it. Why aren't you happy for me? Which I did not understand. So yeah, I would have liked a different presentation of the LGBT terms and characters.
Yeah. With the terminology, I 100% agree. It's super fucking cringe. I hate it, especially like when you're at the mirror. I only picked that my character is trans. I did not intend for him to be trans or anything. I only picked it because I wanted to see what the dialogue options would be. That's the only reason. And even then, just selecting that thing, you know, it starts off okay. Your character is a little bit dramatic, and I wish there was more of a balance that maybe some are more like, oh yeah, you know what? I just found out I don't feel like I am who I'm supposed to be or something like that, and then something maybe like, I struggled with it. But it's like they give you one line, and then they slap on there. But you know, once I realized that I'm trans, everything made sense. But like, yeah, it's like I said, it's very modern, and it just feels so out of place. It's so wrong. With Taj especially, I just wish they would have written their relationship with the mother different. I wish that they had maybe a more positive relationship than like. I don't understand at all the reason for why Taj's mother had to be so stupid. If she was just nice, it would not have made a difference, because in the end, the whole thing is with like, oh, she actually is caring in a way. You can write a stern character who maybe isn't the best mother, or just like who at least tries. You can make that relationship in so many different ways, and then you could have implemented what you brought up, that there is a terminology. So you basically could have rewritten the whole scene at the dinner with like Tash being like, you know, I don't know what it is. I don't feel like a man. I don't feel like a woman. But like or maybe even what I also once said is like, I just don't feel like a woman. And then maybe the mother could have been like, you know, first I don't understand or something like that. And I was like, yeah, you know, we have this thing, and then maybe they could have bonded over the fact that the mother is like, yeah, actually, you know, we have this, and then they could have built on that, and then also the hits with the mother, spoiler, dying, would have even been more in there, and it just could have been more of a dynamic of maybe at the very beginning they had a strange relationship, but then they bonded over this, and then boom, dead. Sad. Because I was not sad about the mom dying. I fucking hated the mom.
I have a counter argument.
Okay.
Tash's mom needed to be like that because otherwise Tash's entire character does not work. She is an accomplished dragon hunter, but she behaves like a pouty 14-year-old. But she is, they are, mid-20s. And the reason for that behavior is because Tash's mother is holding them back development-wise. Tash's mother is extremely overbearing, doesn't trust them at all, doesn't see them as their own person who can make their own decisions, just goes over their head, doesn't feel shame for that, like how they volunteered Tash for our team and doesn't even bother to mention that at all. And then when Tash is understandably upset, the mother doesn't care, because Tash is a small child who cannot make their own decisions according to the mother, and that's why Tash had never the chance to develop out of that pouty teenage phase. And now that they are living away from the mother for the first time, this might start to change, and I think this is supposed to be reflected by, you know, coming to terms with the non-binary stuff, for example. And when the mother then dies, Tash has a complicated relationship with the mother because the mother is treating them horribly, but is too close to the topic to see that, which I think is very typical for this kind of relationship. And only when they live away with the group and maybe with the support of Rook, they start to understand that it's actually not okay how the mother is treating them, and that they do not have to take it. And maybe the outburst over the non-binary thing is less about the non-binary and the terms and more about Tash just finally this was one bit too much. Because just before that the mother is like, oh, I cannot eat what you cook, make me something fresh from scratch.
Yeah.
Like,
God.
holy shit.
That-
At every point the mother is using Tash as a servant and a thing to command around and is overbearing, and that's why Tash exploded at this point. And then when the mother is abducted and gets killed in front of her, I really like the voice acting in that moment because
Yes.
Tash seemed like a little
Agree.
girl, screaming for their mother. And now the mother is dead, and there's never the chance to reconcile again. And leaves Tash in an extremely complicated place because the last thing that they talked about with the mother was fighting. And if the mother was nice and supportive, this character would not work.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. For me, it's also just like I would not care if the character would not work because I would love for Tash to be someone else. So I would not be mad at the character being rewritten entirely. So, my opinion. But also like this is also an interpretation of the scene, the dinner scene. Because for me, I made it even simpler. I was just like, maybe Tosh just flips out on the mom because Tosh is like, hey, I'm non-binary. I use these pronouns, and then the mother tries to again push something else, like, oh, you are this, and Tosh is like, don't tell me what I am, just accept what I just told you.
Right.
I mean, it goes in the same direction because it's just like, even if the mother is just trying to be like, oh yeah, I think I know what you mean. It's just from Tash's perspective, it's just like, don't try to rationalize it. Just take it at face value. What I'm telling you, you always try to build. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, never lets them have their own thing. It has
Yeah.
always be something that the mother approves of. Because the mother does not allow Tash anything. I mean, imagine you're Rook. You're in your late 20s, early 30s. You are leading in the entire Veilguard against the returned elven gods. You have to deal with, renounced people like Emmerich and the demon of Tevinter, whatever. And then this lady comes in and treats you too like a pretty little child that she can command around. And how dare you tell my daughter that they can embrace their Rivani, upbringing,
Yeah.
and insults you to your face. This is not how adults behave.
Yeah. I also, because I watched the video, the kid shared,
Mhm.
and there is the dinner scene in as well, but the dinner scene in that video is from the perspective when you tell Tosh to embrace the Kun side.
Mhm.
And the scene is very different from that, I feel. It's still like, she accepts the food, but she wants another spice in there and stuff like that. And she just turns to like, you're not good enough for my child. While on for me, it was just like, she attacked me over the food that Tash cooked. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Your child cooked food, and now you're like, oh my god, Tash spends 1 week with you and loses all their blah blah blah. I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You come into
think
my
that-
house.
Yeah, but I think that's who the mother is. I know people like
Yeah,
that
me
who
too.
they always know better than anyone and everyone, and they cannot accept that other people are different and that other people might know better, and they are willing to go to war with something as trivial about as like the fucking food.
The thing is,
I mean, her argument with if you embrace the Rivani thing, her argument, oh, this is too rich for me, I cannot eat that. Then
Yeah.
eat a little bit.
Yeah, there's fucking bread and cheese. And for me, it's just like I think I just lock into a specific interpretation of this scene because it also kind of reminds me of stuff I had in my family, but also I know that I can be like the mother sometimes, and it's just a character trait that's fucking disgusting. and just seeing it played out like this is just like, oh, it's so tiring. It's so exhausting.
I'm one of the few people, I think, who I appreciate Tosh's character. I like that Tosh is just saying dumb and blunt things.
What? No.
I think it's funny.
You know
I
the guy
did
right
not
now talking about the
enjoy
mother,
the.
right?
Yes.
Okay, just I did not know if you mean.
But I'm coming to that because you said you
Yeah.
wish Tosh was a different person.
mean-
I do not wish that Tosh was a different person. I found it kind of refreshing at points where, Emmerich is super slick. Lucanus doesn't have a personality outside of coffee. And Neff doesn't have a personality outside of Minrafros. That sometimes Tosh just comes along and says something like, my man, you have one brain cell. And other characters also. Lucanus has some amazing dialogue with them.
Yeah.
Where something that you haven't witnessed yet, Bug, is later on, Lucanus agrees to teach Tash how to kill someone with flair. And lesson 1 is after you killed someone, you say something casual. And Tash is like, okay. So I killed someone and I say, hey, and he's like, no, that's too casual. And then she's like, they're like, no, I don't get it. Why is this so complicated? And he's like, normally this is not complicated. And
Yeah.
then they drop the topic because Tash is a big idiot.
I said bronze, no brain. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some brain in there, but it's definitely that stereotype.
Yeah. But I could have done without this super weird.
Yeah, the handling of
The non-binary handling is so wooden, and I think we should also mention the very first time this comes up when Tash is insulting Nev's clothing style because they would dress like this because you want to impress your mother. And I also think that the writers of the scene were expecting Nev to wear a dress because why they're talking about dresses and Nev is wearing trousers all the time. Anyway,
yeah, Nev is dressed masculine, and
Stylish.
Nev is stylish but not super feminine. She is dressed femininely, but in a more androgynous way.
Yeah, it's not the cutesy feminine. It's just like the blows up, and it's just very, bam, here I am. Powerful. Powerful.
But yes, powerful.
German.
But in the scene, Tash is attacking Nev for dressing somewhat femininely, and then saying, I cannot be a woman, or I don't feel like a woman because I don't like dresses. And I think this is super reductive, and I think it's wrong to just let it stand. I mean, you can defend Nev and say, Tash, this is enough, and then Nev will say, I'm a big girl, I can handle myself. But,
I do.
You also have to let it stand that Tash says nobody likes being a woman. And I said it before, but I wish that the game would let you react to that because most women like being women. That's why they're women.
I think if you play as a female character, you do get a special dialogue option where you can say, well, I like being a woman.
Oh, that's nice, but I wish in that case Nev would maybe say something. Because I understand why a guy doesn't necessarily can say something, but even then I think they could give you the option, so I think most girls do.
Actually, I think this is like, I like that actually, because Nev has a response which is just like the and to me that's enough. To me it conveys like Nev is like there is the problem that you think this is how we feel.
Yeah,
but it's not. And then when you have the trans options, of course, you can be like, actually, I had the same thing and then I transitioned, basically. It's not what he says, but...
I understand that Nev has this reaction, but I still think this scene would be better if Nev would just say, instead of just going, and just leaving it at that, like that Nev would say, I do. because I think in that moment Taj needed to be put in their place a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it immediately, at least in my playthrough, transitioned to I have friends in Minrathous who might feel the same way. Do you want a therapy session with them? And the whole dialogue of the scene, at least for me, was so extremely wooden and fake. It read like Tumblr posters first fanfiction.
Yeah.
Or a school assignment about how do you think it feels like it is coming out as non-binary? Write a short story.
It's again typical writing issue that they did not plan enough for the different kinds of characters there, so they just put in something to cover for if the character cannot respond to it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, personally, I found certain parts of Tash's the things they said to be something like, oh yeah, but the presentation is bad. I understand what they were going for, but the presentation is bad. Like, I understand why they made Tash say nobody likes being a woman. They said that because they're showing us, the player, that Tash has a very specific point of view and doesn't understand that not everybody else is like that.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
I like that as well, because that is also basically how I found out that I'm trans, because I was just like, I fucking hate being a woman. I don't like that. And then whenever I interact with my sister, I have this silly thought sometimes. I'm like, my sister is cis hetero, and I'm like, you're just okay with that. That's crazy to me that you're just like, you live like this.
You live like this?
Yeah,
It is like this.
but it's literally, I have this thought so many times when I just hang with her and hear her talk in a high, like my sister also does the thing when she talks to her soon-to-be husband and stuff like that, that her pitch goes
The
higher.
term is fiance. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, fiance, I'm sorry.
Because you always say soon to be husband.
I also sometimes say fiance, I mix it up.
Okay.
But like that, you know, when you're interested in someone, your voice goes higher and stuff like that. And I hate it when my voice goes higher.
That's why all the girls I talk to sound like Batman.
Yeah, but like every time I hear her do that, I'm always like, oh yeah, women are not bothered by sounding feminine, right?
Mm.
I'm like, oh yeah, I am not like that, right? That's why I'm taking hormones.
Yeah,
but in the game it just makes it seem like Tash's view on what a woman can be is super reductive, and that's where their issues stem from. And I don't think that's what they were trying to go for. It feels like if someone would sit down with Tash and be like, no, you can be a woman and also do what you're basically doing right now, that it could change things. And I don't think that's the message they were trying to get across. But the scene makes it look like that for me, at least.
I guess the basic issue again is just like, I see what you were going for, but you could have written this better.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the whole I appreciate them including all the gender stuff and everything. I appreciate them also including non-binary, because I feel like those are some of the major groups right now. And you know, they get one of those little you tried stars. Again, we talked about this earlier as well on stream. It's just the thing of in this game it was a hot mess. The terminology was a mess. The way they handled some of the stuff but it's like either they refine it a little more for if there comes the next game, or they just fuck it up. I hope that they will just learn from this and refine it more, and maybe like put more effort into it if they want to handle it. I just, in general, again, I said it earlier as well, the main problem is probably just that they had an idea, but that then they just went overboard with it every time. It's like you start the conversation and it's okay, and then you just go a little bit too far and it's weird. Or they say, disappoint. I can't get over the mirror thing. It's like you click on it and the first sentence is alright, and then comes to the second sentence and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, also, ironically, you cannot, I don't know if that's ironically, but when I clicked on the mirror, I couldn't specify if my character was non-binary or a trans man, so I ended up as a trans man. I'm like, ah.
I think that was just a miscommunication with the character creator, because
Yeah.
I feel like if you just picked non-binary in the
Yeah.
character creator, you would have.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, past
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Other topic. Speaking about the mirror, I was disappointed that you only get one option.
Yes.
That's it. I was hoping you get to flesh out your own background a little bit more. And as a Kunari, I was super disappointed with the lack of Kunari
Mm-hmm.
related stuff. Almost nobody was recognizing me as Kunari, especially with Tash. There were some tidbits where people recognized that I'm Kunari, but I think there could have been a lot more. And you basically learn nothing about the Kunari. The Antam are a big enemy, but they are just faceless cannon fodder. With the Butcher, you don't get
Oh
any
my
special Kunari options. In the Crows, there's one point where Viago tells you, meet our contact. He might not like you because you're a Kunari, but it never comes to that. It's never mentioned. And then in one hidden dialogue with Jakobus, he's like, I hate Kunari, not you though. And that's the end of it. You know, romancing Lucanus as a Kunari, you might think there could be something done with, you know, you people are occupying my city, but I know you're not Antam. And
That would require complexity and actual romance content to exist for Lucanis.
It's the special dialogue options are also, I think, very unbalanced in this game. I mean, I play the human, so I have no idea with different races. But for me, also, I felt like any time I had a Mornwatch option, I was scared because they were so weird that it's just like this, like, read the room. This is like somebody is talking about anything. You mention a skull, and I'm like, oh my god, skulls! I like skulls. I am a Morn Watcher, or someone like, oh yeah, they died. I'm like, I'm a Morn Watcher. We deal with death. And it's like, cool, Rook. Nobody fucking cares. It's just, why did they put so many unnecessary Morn Watch options in there? It's
At
just
least
so
there is an option there.
Yeah, but it's like that's the same thing with Emmerich. Like, they have the content in the game, but it's just so oddly balanced. There's so much unnecessary Mornwatch shit in there. But then not like, I swear to fucking everything. If there is not a special dialogue option if you're a non-binary Kunari and talk to Taj. Holy fuck.
Don't get your hopes up.
Like, that's the bare minimum.
As a warden, I had a lot of reactivity. I was very happy with my background. It felt like this was the intended class because so many things in this game revolve around the blight. So it really felt like you are where you are supposed to be. And I can highly recommend this background.
Yeah, also
I think the broness with Defran gets ranked up even more.
Yeah, that sounds cool, and I wish. Actually, I'm not. Shadow Dragons also get a lot of options, especially with Minrasus and stuff. But yeah, the Grey Wardens especially, it makes sense that they get a lot of content.
Well, I recommend.
I think Grey Wardens are also a more recognized organization than the Shadow Dragons, who are in the shadows.
What?
So there's more opportunity.
Yeah, I just recommend, if you wanna romance Emmerich, play Mornwatch. There's so much content.
Yeah, I'm gonna play a warrior Morn Watcher for Emmerich.
What I also like when you have the Mornwatch background and you walk through Necropolis, you get so much just dialogue stuff in the background, just people talking about you shit like that. I don't know if I clipped this, but I went past some people once and I only caught half of the conversation, unfortunately. But they were saying something along like, "Oh yeah, isn't this the guy who once did this and this? Oh yeah, I think they go by Rook now." I was like, "Hey." And also when Belara gives you the contact for Emmerich and oh god no, Vorgoth and wait, I know her name.
I don't.
I don't.
Myrna. And Vorgoth and Myrna there, Rook comes in like, "Oh, Vorgoth, Myrna, what the fuck are you doing here?" Like, I love the interaction from Mernwatch with Mernwatch content.
That's nice.
I'm sorry.
I feel like the Crow's background, which I'm playing now with my dwarf, was also nice with the other Crows. You walk in and immediately, yes, oh, Rook, you're here. Viago is horrible if you're not around. And everyone is like, oh, you feel like everyone knows you and is glad you're back and you're back where in the fold, basically.
Yeah. With my second Qunari playing a crow, and yeah, I got the impression that Viago loves us.
I love Viago.
Yes, but he doesn't want to show us. But I think as you progress through the game, there will be less recognition from other factions. The Shadow Dragons, I think, had no reaction to me being a crow. Emmerich only had a reaction because he asked you where you grew up. So
it's so polite.
And then you say the winter, and he's like, "Oh, can I then assume you are a crow?" And you're like, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, let's talk about that later." So that's nice. But with the backgrounds, feels a little bit off with the banter of the companions. If you have the other corresponding companion with you in your group, like for the moment, it's Emmerich or the Warden, and you have Defrin, or as a crow you have Lucanus, and then the other party member will ask them about their background. "Oh, you're an assassin, that's so interesting, tell me all about it." And you walk with them and are like, "Okay, I guess I'm not interesting, I know how it is." Or apparently there's dialogue where Belara tells Neff, "You're the greatest mage that I've ever known," and your mage Rook stands next to them like, okay.
People discussing necromancy and how it's disturbing, and I'm just there like, bro, we've been traveling for months.
Yeah. Or Lucanus having his beef with Defrin and like, "Oh, wardens," and goes off about why wardens suck, and you're like, okay, Lucanus, I get it. I know why you do not talk to me now.
I just want to throw in very randomly, I saw the butcher and I went, oh. Am I alone with like, man.
That felt so rushed. The whole butcher thing, like you hear about him and then you meet him and then he turns and dies.
Like, he's so cool. I was so nervous, and then just suddenly he starts fighting me. I'm like, ah.
He could have been like this bigger thing, but they never, like, you only hear about him. It's weird.
He's so good. He's so beautiful. Like, I had the exact same expression as my Rook when I walked in, just like, ooh. He's so good.
He has 2 lines. He's so good. He's my favorite.
I heard his voice. I saw his face. I was like, holy fuck. I only knew Iron Ball through you guys, and the Qunari never appealed to me in any way, shape, or form. But the Butcher.
The Butcher.
I just wish the Butcher would realize that he's talking to a Qunari who is neither part of the Qun or the Antam. Or even if he was like, "You're part of the Qun," I would have taken that. He doesn't know me. It's okay if he assumes that. I just want anyone to recognize that I have horns. I
think the Butcher is one of those NPCs where I just wish there was more about it, because also Isaiah, I fucking loved the whole Gloomholer thing. And I just wish there would have been another outcome for her. Because she just like being sad and dying. I was like, oh. Give me a redemption arc for the Gloomholer. Come on.
There's apparently a novel about her.
Hell yeah. I love the design and everything. Like this is such a tragic story and I love her. I took so many screenshots of the Gloomholer. Isaiah. Other topics?
Other topics.
I mean, we still need to touch on romance and like our experience with the romances.
We did talk about it a bit while we're talking about other stuff. You can talk about your experience specifically. I can talk about my experience. Before that, so I don't forget, as a Dragon Age fan of past games, the fact that the past choices don't matter is very noticeable, and it's very disappointing. Even coming to terms with it after hearing that there's only 3 choices, and it's just they try to skim over some stuff and imply certain things, and that works sometimes, but there were other parts where you're like, oh, okay, so what the hell? Like for example, with Morrigan and Mythal and Flemeth, and Morrigan, depending on her fate in Origins, she could have a child. That never comes up.
Oh.
Yeah. See,
that comes in the next game.
Depending on what happens, she kills Flemeth/Mythal. She is very against getting possessed. She doesn't want that. So they just completely skip the whole part where she was completely, she'd rather die. And now in this game, she's like, yeah, I picked up Mythal's soul, it's cool. Like, what? And also, like, they just mention things like, oh, there was a well with Mythal's past experiences and people that followed her. And it was a huge choice who drank from the well that is never touched upon. And just, you think that at least the 3 choices you get in the character creator with the Inquisitor, like who you romanced, if you disband the Inquisition, and if you vote to stab Solus or not, would matter a lot, at least, but they don't. It only matters if you romance Solus. That's pretty much it. And if the other characters you romance, you basically, exception is Dorian, who appears, you basically just get 1 codex option, and that's it. Whether you disbanded or vow to stop Solus or not, it does not matter at all. Like, I don't know why they even had those choices when it matters so little. Like, there's a difference in 1 dialogue option or something. It's just very sad, and I wish they had bothered to include more. That's it.
Yeah, I got a feeling from reading the Reddit that a lot of things were missing or were set up in the past that are getting ignored. I like the lore of Revelation about where elves come from, what happened to the Titans.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like that, but the whole story of the game should have been different to include what happened before and the lore that was already established. That comes down to how the elves react to the elven gods returning, the different factions, how they are behaving, how they're represented, how Minrathos is represented, and also the Antam, who should hate mages, and now they have, and also the other guys, the Venatori, who are both supremacy groups who think they are the best, and none of them are elven, and both of them are suddenly following elven gods for power. And you could have different approaches to that. You could have the Venatori don't know those are the elven gods. They think they are the winter gods. Yeah, and the Gillenane is just posing as those gods to trick them, and then the Venatori would still basically do the same thing, but it's better explained why the supremacy group is helping them. And for the Antam, I don't think it makes any sense for them to follow the elven gods, mages, unless they also get tricked somehow. But then you would have to write a different game.
Yeah.
As I said, I had fun playing this game, but I also feel that not having played much of the previous games helped a lot with that, because I don't know what's missing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know what's wrong. But yeah, Dwarven lore is always good in any game, and the game gave me a good batch of Dwarven lore, so yay.
Yeah. The dwarven stuff was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was set up in Inquisition, so it is a natural follow-up, which it was cool. That was one of the few things that was, a nice follow-up to the story of the dwarves.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your romantic experience, Bug?
I just realized that I think I did not record my sex life with Emmerich.
Oh, fuck.
I can't find the recording. I think I may have fucked up and not recorded that.
Oh, no.
I guess I have to do this again.
Yes, so.
I mean, I feel bad now for talking about it because it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, as I said before, I dislike romances in game. I mean, I'm glad they're there, but it's not for me. I cringe too hard, especially when I know that I either have to show the recordings to my friend or they're gonna watch me go through it. It's a very interesting experience, but I really appreciate Emmerich's romance for not being too cringe. Like, every time I felt like it's gonna get too cringe, it was okay. It was alright. And I think I got 5 or 6 kisses.
Fuck you.
And I think two fuckies.
Kiss.
I think we did it twice.
Wow.
And I really, really, really appreciate that I could literally tell him when he was like, I'm gonna be an undead, I could just say, I'm into that. Because you bet your ass I picked that dialogue option.
Yeah, Emmerich's romance is definitely the way to go if you want
Content, yeah.
Content, and also perhaps the quality closely resembling previous games.
It's very well written, and I just love his reaction every time. I'm like, every time I told him that I like him at the beginning, he just looks at me like I just said the most outrageous thing. He's just like, what the fuck? Then later on, every time I say like, hey, I don't care if you become a lich, I will still fuck you. He always gives me that look of like, bro, are you fucking shitting me? It's like he cannot believe how desperate I am. I'm just, no, I want to fuck your corpse. And he's like, what the fuck? But he always seems like he wants to run away, but he's too far in. And he's like, whatever.
He knows at his age he cannot be picky.
Yeah, which is also... This is something that annoys me because I wanted to make an older character, but it's clearly... The game is so obviously made to romance Emmerich that you cannot make an old character because you have to be young so that when you romance Emmerich, the characters can comment on the age difference. Which they do. And obviously you have amazing things like Tosh coming in clutch again with them being like calling Emmerich all kinds of things, and then when you start a romance with Emmerich, spoiler, Tosh is like, please don't do corpse stuff in bed. Actually, you know what? You're right, you can do corpse stuff in bed.
Wow.
Tosh is amazing, and like, as I said, it's not that I dislike Tosh, I just do not care a lot about Tosh as a character. But they do have great lines. I just love every time someone talks to Tosh, and it's just like, what the fuck? Just the pain.
Buck, do you want to hear something about Emmerich? What happens if you don't romance him? He will find love without you.
No, he won't.
Do you wanna know who?
Yes, I wanna know who.
You wanna take a guess?
I mean, okay, wait. So it's Nev and Lucaris, Tosh and Harding, which means we have Devrin and Ballora. But not Ballora,
Ballora.
Ballora is Five Nights at Freddy's. That's all the characters, right?
Yes, but I will give you the hint. It's none of the companions.
Ooh!
Morgan will be in a relationship with a disgraced dwarven prince.
I have no idea, say it.
It's Strife. And you may now wonder who the fuck is Strife.
I know who Strife is.
Yeah? Who is it?
From the Rail Jumpers.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
The
Because the
demon.
first time I heard it, I thought he is romancing Lucan's demon.
The right decision. No, I
Honestly.
like Strife. Strife is cool.
Okay, yeah. I think it makes sense in the sort of way they are close
Same
in
thing.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the
The only
all
thing
the
they have
resemblance
in
that I have.
common.
But
Yes.
Emric is bi, right? You can romance him with both
Yeah.
genders. Yeah.
They're all bi.
What?
They're all bi.
I did not know that.
You
Okay.
didn't?
No.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned earlier that I like this. That you...
I thought you were referring to Inquisition.
It was in old Dragon Age.
Yeah, I thought it
games.
was an all Dragon Age. So... Oh.
No.
Okay, well, fuck Veilguard then. What the fuck? I thought I was just lucky that I could romance him.
No.
No.
But he's a slut, I see.
Yeah, as we
Wow.
know, bi people are sluts, so you heard it
I-
here.
Just
can-
casual
I can-
biphobia.
I can say that I'm bi.
Uh-huh.
No, you cannot.
Why not?
It's still sad.
But we always say that I'm a slut.
Yeah, that's a suit.
But we all know that's a joke.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Nev and Lucanus, I think their coupling up would be kinda cute. If it wasn't for everything.
I fucked them.
Yes.
Fuck them.
You fucked them both.
It's so annoying. It's so frustrating that they put more effort in building this side romance between two NPCs than with the actual NPC and the player character. It's just so frustrating.
It is. I'm curious to see how it goes with Bellara. I have been told on the subreddit, number one romance is Emric from the content.
Whoop, whoop.
The next two are Devrin and Bellara.
So probably
And-
Bellara gets the same amount of content as Davrin.
I assume, but from you I know that Devrin's romance is definitely not as content rich as Emric's.
Definitely not.
So yeah, Bellara has left me on read for a while now.
So sad, man.
So sad.
And like, I made an entire freaking crow Kunari for Lucanis, and it's just going to
Entire crow.
waste.
Wasted.
Wasted potential.
The most handsome Kunari I could make, and there he goes.
Yeah, well, not handsome enough.
Ah, not Nev enough, apparently.
Yeah.
So Emric called me a dashing young man,
Wow.
and I called him dashing.
Dash.
I'm so sad that like I don't deserve the content. I cannot appreciate all the content I'm getting.
Mhm.
I mean, I appreciate it, but I scream the entire way through.
Well, to wrap up, let me know, guys, if you want to add anything after this. As a Dragon Age fan, Veilguard, is it good? It's a fine game by itself. As a Dragon Age game, if we compare to the previous games, it suffers a lot when it comes to the writing and the dialogue, especially at the beginning. Aspects like the music, tone, things like that, but it's a fun time and it does get better near the end, especially when it comes to solos and stuff. So yeah, it's fine. It's not as bad as people say it is, definitely.
No. And I feel like as someone who's completely going in blind, it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely not regret buying it because I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
It was a gift, but I was ready to buy it myself. I don't. No, actually, like, I can recommend it.
Good.
I wanna say to the Solar stuff before we end because we didn't talk about him at all.
I love so. Oh yeah.
I like how often my character could call him out on his bullshit. Take the words out of my mouth. And basically call him out on all this whole who is me? I'm sad, so I can do whatever I want because I'm sad bullshit. And they gave Rook one F-bomb, and it was to address Solas. In the end, where he's like, "Okay, are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
And I like that they give you different endings. I picked the one where you trick him. The way the cutscene is written is really suspenseful because you always have the feeling any second he realizes the dagger you gave him is fake. And the companions that you have with you, I had Nev and Lucanus, they look at you, they look at each other, they look at the dagger and like, oh my god, any second he realizes and he looks down at the dagger and you're like, oh my god, he knows that we're fooling him. But then you trick him successfully and he tries to pull this around and says, I taught you well. And then you can pick, no, Varric taught me well and you killed him. And then his mask flies off and he goes rage, like, I am a god and you're nothing. And you can be like, yeah, but I tricked you. And as he gets pulled into the fate, as you finally trick the trickster. And but I like Solar's characterization because I fully understand how people will look at this and be like, no, I still support him, he did nothing wrong, or he did some things wrong, but I can still forgive him. Because I get the feeling Solas is written so well that no matter what he does, some people will always forgive him and be like, oh, let's give him another chance next time, for sure. And I mean, it worked out if you take the ending where you convince him, where you're talking down, at least for the moment, at least as far as you know, you talk him down and he goes willingly into the fate and is the new anchor and all is well. So I like that they give you option and make all options believable.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to say, I fucking love Solas. I love the banter I could have with him at the beginning. Like, it felt very organic. I like, especially like when you come back to the Fate and talk to him again, like he picking up again that last time you called him out and shit like that. It's very funny. I also really love how in that one conversation I could be like my Rook was just saying like, oh yeah, he's 100% gonna backstab us, but whatever, he can still help us afterwards, which again I find humorous, love it. And I just love Solas because I don't think at any point I really expected him to be a good guy. I was 100% for him to backstab and backstab and backstab and fool me over and over and over again and be an asshole. I was actually surprised at the ending that he was actually like seeing reason and like I talked him out. Like that was the biggest surprise in the game for me. And I fucking love his character. Like the writing, I just love him from start to finish because he's exactly like, I have at least 3 characters like him and one character who basically has the exact same storyline as him. I love it. I love him so much.
He's a very well written character.
I love bitches, and he's a bitch. I love him.
Okay.
And I want to hug him at the end. Like, God, there were so many times where I just was like, can I please hug the character? Like, there were multiple characters. Let me give them a hug. I cried at the end. I cried over Solas. I cried over so many characters. This game got me very emotional sometimes.
And that's good.
Emric made me cry so much. Manfred. Our son.
Yeah.
Yeah, good game.
Good game.
You can play it.
You can play it for sure.
I allow it.
Yeah. But I feel like some parts of why the game was good is because there were the remnants of what was left from the previous Dragon Age games. And everything else just trying to drag it down a bit. If that makes sense.
It's definitely I think the game overall is an experience that heavily relies on like what you value, and I mean, okay, that's a broad term, but like what the decisions you make and what you want to focus on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are in the game for romance and you don't want to romance Emmerich, then I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm so sorry. If you are there for the combat, I think you're gonna have fun. I fucking hate fighting dragons.
Okay, that's you. Okay, great. Anyway, let's wrap things up. Any final thoughts?
No.
Don't make me choose so much. There were too many decisions. I took too long.
It's a fucking Bioware role-playing game, bitch.
Well, I don't like making decisions.
Okay, whatever.
I just like being a necromancer.
All right. Well,
That's my final thought. I like being a necromancer.
that's good. All right. Yeah.
And for anyone who starts to play, don't watch this video because it's full of spoilers.
Yeah. This is not meant as a you should play it or not. This is meant to be watched as a discussion after you play.
If you're thinking of making a oversized, a large, a thick, a fat character, make that an informed decision because 90% of the clothes will look absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. Good point.
It is an important point. I'm looking at myself looking like a fucking genie.
All right.
Don't show your friends your sex scenes.
Why not?
I mean,
Coward.
I am a coward.
All right. We're gonna stop here. This was 3 hours.
What?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
That was you sound below.
What?